Damn it, Cheryl, you've been working with us for 4 months, Connie said. This is the first time we made you come out with us. So don't think about leaving until you've had at least one cocktail. And you won't dance at least a couple of times, Nancy added. Today is Friday, there will be a lot of guys here. And you're a beautiful woman, there won't be any problem finding someone. One drink and I'm leaving, Cheryl replied. No dancing and no men. Cheryl, not that it matters, Helen said. But are you by any chance into girls? Of course not, Cheryl replied. Her new colleagues could not understand her. Only Connie knew the truth about Cheryl's life before she came to work at Zai's company. Cheryl was an attractive brunette, about 5'4" in tall. She had nice but not prominent breasts, a thin waist, and a nice but not particularly noticeable ass. Her best features were her green eyes and long legs. Connie, on the other hand, was blonde and shorter, only 5 feet tall. She had huge breasts and a round butt. She was 10–15 pounds overweight, but everything was in place, and men adored her. Nancy, the youngest of the bunch at 30, was the tallest but had the least curves, a cup breasts and slender, boyish hips. Helen, who was 44, was the oldest, but also the only one of the four who was married and had children. Cheryl was married for over 15 years, but unfortunately her marriage ended just 11 months ago. She was still going through a breakup, which explained her monastic lifestyle. If you're not into girls, then why don't you want to meet a good man? Asked Nancy. Because I already met one and ruined everything, Cheryl replied coldly. Besides, it's impossible to meet a good man in a place like this. Everyone you meet here are hunters for easy prey and one-night stands. No, thank you. Besides Connie, the other women were shocked by Cheryl's words. They looked at her, waiting for her to tell her story. But she was silent. She looked around the room as if trying to find a way out, but her eyes fell on the guy at the table on the other side of the room. Nancy and Connie followed her gaze and surprised expression to the table she was looking at. Cheryl completely forgot about her friends as she looked at the other table. The words of a song from her youth came to her mind. You stand in the corner, turn away. You're running away again. This was the first line from the Vixen song, How Much Love. She reminded Cheryl of how her marriage had progressed. Connie, who frequented this bar often, waved at several guys at the table, and they waved back. One of the guys stood up and walked towards their table. Connie noticed that Cheryl had already stood up and was carefully moving towards the table where the guy was sitting. There was a man Connie had never seen before. He had dark hair. He was lean, but still muscular. He turned his face away from them as if hiding something. He rose smoothly and walked away from the table. He headed towards the toilets along the wall near the door. Several guys asked Cheryl to dance as she tried to get to the man who had left the table. They barely slowed her down. One guy even grabbed her arm and tried to drag her onto the dance floor until she screamed for him to let her go. Connie quickly ran up to her friend. Roger, the guy who came over to talk to Connie, joined them. Cheryl, what happened? Connie asked. Cheryl ignored her friend and turned to Roger. That guy at your table is the one who went to the toilet. Is he your friend? How do you know him? She asked. He was nice, honey, but maybe he's married or something, Connie said. Don't get attached to any guy before you meet him. Maybe he's not your type, or maybe you're not his. Like you said before, not many people come to places like this to meet their other half. Cheryl ignored Connie again. His name is Rob Thomas, isn't it? Roger nodded. He has been working with us for about 2 months. He's a hard worker and a great guy. But he lives like a monk. Many girls at work flirt with him all the time, but apparently he is already in love. This is the first time we were able to get him to come out with us. But something scared him. He returned to her and left. Did you hear that? I scared him, Cheryl said. A tear rolled down her cheek. Connie looked at her friend and her heart sank. Honey, I don't think you scared him. You're probably just not his type. Handsome guys who know they are handsome always think they can choose the women they want. Maybe he likes blondes. What kind of girlfriend does he have? Cheryl asked. Well, she's black and quite broad, Roger chuckled. Connie shrugged. Nothing surprised her anymore. Everyone has their own type, honey, just like we do, she said. It also has 4 chrome wheels, a turbocharged V8 engine, and a running horse in the grill, Roger said. Cheryl looked at Roger in surprise. What? She asked. As far as I can tell, Rob doesn't date girls. He loves his car. The only woman I've ever heard from him is his mother. That sound a few seconds ago on the street was the sound of his Mustang driving onto the track and leaving me here. If I don't hook up with someone today, I'll have to ask one of the other guys to give me a ride home. He winked at Connie. Um, looks like I'll be busy trying to calm my friend down, Connie said, but you let me know sometime. Connie took Cheryl to her home. She looked around and noticed several photos of Cheryl and Rob together. What surprised her most was the large framed wedding photograph. In the photo, Cheryl looked incredibly happy. It seemed that she was marrying the man of her dreams and was happy beyond belief. Rob, although younger, also looked very happy. Connie wondered what had happened to turn Cheryl into the depressed and seemingly dying woman she knew. Another thing that bothered Connie was Rob himself. He seemed almost afraid of the woman he had once been married to, the woman he once promised to love and cherish for the rest of his life. She needed to know more about this situation, and not just because of her friendship with Cheryl. That first time she saw Rob across the hall, before he sneaked out the back door of the bar, it was like time stood still for her. Cheryl came out of the bathroom wearing a long flannel robe. She had taken off her makeup, but her face was still red and her eyes were puffy from crying. Tears were still silently rolling down her face as she sat down on the couch and pulled her knees under her. Connie moved to the couch next to her friend. "Why don't you tell me about it, honey?" she said. "Sometimes it becomes easier when you say it, and I can't help you take revenge on him unless I find out what he did to you." Cheryl stood up for a moment and looked at Connie like she was an idiot. "I don't want revenge, Connie. I'm the one who ruined everything. All I want is my husband back." "But you're divorced?" Connie asked. "Didn't you have a chance in court to say no?" "I would move mountains," Cheryl said. "I would sell my soul for another chance. All he has to do is marry me again. But he doesn't even have to do that. I would be happy to just be his girlfriend or his backup option." Connie looked at Cheryl strangely. Cheryl was not a woman who would use such language. "Don't look at me like I'm crazy," Cheryl said sharply. "Rob is not someone who is just looking for a fling. If he started something with me, even something like that, it would still become something more. I just need a way to get back into his life. And even if it was just sex, I would agree to it without hesitation. He is my soulmate. We should be together," she said passionately. "Every second we're not together hurts me." Connie looked back at Cheryl. In the last few months that she had known Cheryl, this was the first time she had seen passion for something in her friend's eyes. Seeing Cheryl on the couch without makeup made her seem older, but at the same time more innocent and vulnerable. Connie knew that Cheryl was approaching 40, but the pain and emotions that came from her made her look older. "Rob and I got married when we were 22, Cheryl began. "We met in college and got married right after graduation. I'm from a small farming town in Iowa and Rob is from New York. Our families and upbringings couldn't be more different, but when we met, something clicked, and that was it. It happened at a party for one of those stupid environmental organizations that every college campus has. We were both there with other people, but it didn't matter. 2 minutes after we met, the connection between us became palpable. It was as if electricity was passing between us. Our eyes met, and we simply ignored everyone around us. It got awkward after a while. My boyfriend started getting angry and was making gestures like he wanted to fight Rob or something. Finally, Rob's beau saved us from the awkwardness by asking him to take her home. "I'm really interested in this event," Rob said, smiling at me but telling his date. "Maybe I'll take you home and come back." "Perhaps this will be better," the girl said, "though I doubt you'll be here alone for long." Can you take me home too? I asked my gentleman. He looked at me like I was dog shit on his shoe. Go to hell, he spat. I'm not a fool, so don't play stupid games with me. Why would I waste gas to take you to your dorm if you're going to come back here and have sex with another guy? He looked at me angrily. It's good that you disappeared. Then he just walked away, leaving me standing there. Dating Rob was a different experience compared to all the other guys I've met. Even though I didn't date that much, I quickly realized that this was different. First of all, that awkward getting to know each other period didn't exist. From the very first moment he returned to the party, he knew that I would be there waiting for him. In fact, before he finally introduced himself to me and we knew each other's names, we already knew it was different. Firstly, from the very first date, it seemed that we were already married. There was no doubt that there would be no other meetings or acquaintances. No awkward questions about whether we've become exclusive. We both felt it immediately. There was no more, I want to do this with my life, or after I graduate I'm going to. The rest of our lives will be spent not as me, but as we. We told each other everything that had happened to us up to that moment. Our hopes, our dreams, and what we did before. None of this mattered anymore. We bent our separate futures to fit into our new existence together. Our past relationships were as different as our backgrounds. Rob, of course, by the age of 22 already, had some experience communicating with the opposite sex. On the other hand, I had only recently started dating and was determined to remain a virgin until my wedding night. My grandmother was a virgin at her wedding, my mother was too, and I was determined to continue this family tradition. I expected Rob to be a little intimidated at first by my determination. I was even ready to give in a little in my desire to preserve my virginity before marriage. But Rob told me that if this is what I want, good for him as long as he becomes the man I marry. But you need regular sex, don't you? I asked him. He just smiled at me and said that the feeling he gets from just standing next to me and holding my hand is much better than sex. As is often the case, this laid the foundation for our lives. I loved Rob with all my heart and soul, and he loved me even more. It was as if he was giving me everything he had, and then he went and took even more to give it to me too. My life completely changed after that. Although we were both adults and soon to graduate from college when we met, I quickly began to see myself as part of Rob. Several guys I dated found out I was in a relationship and wanted to know more. One guy asked me if I would give them a chance now that someone had broken me. Get what? I asked. Get a little me? He smiled. I don't think that will happen, I said. Besides, you're asking the wrong person. You need to talk to Rob. So we saw everything. My lips were where Rob's kisses were. My breasts are for Rob to play with. My butt was where Rob put his hands when we danced. And most importantly, my heart was where all of Rob's love went. Life right after college was different. I think in my head, before I met Rob, I always expected to move back home and maybe find a job in one of the larger cities around the small town where I grew up. In the last weeks before graduation, I began to think how difficult it would be to leave him and go home. Everything inside me was twisted. I think that's when I realized that everything we talked about, all the words of love, were real. I couldn't just walk away and leave him for long, just like I couldn't leave my head on the table. It was simply impossible. He was a part of me. I wondered why he didn't worry as much as I did. I foolishly listened to one of my classmates who told me that men are simply different from women. They are not that emotional. She said that where I was emotionally attached to Rob, men were emotionally attached through sex, and because we hadn't done that yet, our connection didn't affect him as much as it did me. It seemed logical, just like men could spend the night with someone and just walk away and never call the girl again. The girls were often devastated and spent weeks wondering what was wrong with them. I decided to talk to Rob and explain to him how I felt. I also wanted to know why he wasn't as worried about our upcoming separation as I was. I got turned on and started to think that maybe Rob was tired of me and wanted a girl he could just sleep with without waiting for the wedding. Looking back, if I had remembered the lesson I learned back then, Rob and I would still be together today. I still remember him lying on his couch, studying, when I burst into his dorm. "Rob, maybe you don't love me as much as you claim," I screamed. "I'm in tears because we won't be together after graduation next week, and you're just studying like nothing matters. Don't you understand that my life will be terrible without you, even if it's only for a short time? Rob, I love you. I don't want us to ever be apart." He just looked at me like I was the village idiot. "Cher, we won't be apart," he said calmly. "What?" I asked, sitting down next to him on the sofa. "I was going crazy trying to decide if I should just follow you to Iowa or if you should come to New York with me," he said. "I looked at all the pros and cons and came to the conclusion that the best thing for us, and perhaps for our children, would be to stay here." My eyes got even bigger. "Iowa has small-town charm and the best atmosphere for families," he continued. "But the job opportunities in both of our fields there are terrible. New York, on the other hand, has all the career prospects you'd expect from a major city, but I wouldn't want to raise a puppy, let alone our kids, in a place like that. So I decided that the best thing for us would be to just rent an apartment here, move in together, and start looking for work. As soon as we have an income, we can get married and—" He didn't have time to finish. My brain finally understood what he was talking about, and I just grabbed him and started kissing him. I literally tried to kiss him to death. I didn't even let him breathe. He tried to show me the apartments he had booked for inspection, but nothing could make me let him go. I would have sex with him right there on the dorm couch, with the door wide open, and I wouldn't care who saw us. "Why didn't you tell me about this earlier?" I finally asked him. "I didn't think it was worthy of attention," he replied. "We both knew from the very first moment that we would never be apart, right?" "I guess sometimes I just need you to remind me," I said, trying to hide my tears. Our first apartment was terrible. In the winter, it was colder than Alaska, and in the summer, it was hotter than hell. There were a lot of strange noises, not enough cabinet space, and too much renovation work. But I loved this place like a palace. Rob found a job in sales the first week out of school. It took me a few weeks, but I finally got a part-time job, which later became full-time. Every penny we could save went toward the wedding, or at least the honeymoon. I would have just gone to the registry office and married Rob as soon as he asked me, but he reminded me that we would only get married once. "We have to do this right." He didn't want me to have regrets or bad feelings later. His family gave us several monetary gifts that helped with the planning and organization of the wedding. Unfortunately, my family couldn't or wouldn't help. I think my parents were upset because I didn't come home after graduation. Actually, I think they thought I got pregnant or something, and that's why I didn't come back. It took a lot of time and visits from both sides for them to finally reluctantly accept Rob and that we truly loved each other. The weeks leading up to the wedding were terrible for me. I wanted Rob so badly that I began to regret that I had promised to remain a virgin until marriage. In the last 2 weeks before the wedding, I started sleeping in Rob's bed, and often, when he hugged me in a dream, I seriously thought about just sleeping with him. There were even a few occasions when he accidentally touched me when he woke up, and I took off all my clothes and rubbed myself against him while he hugged me. Our wedding night was a turning point for me. We scraped together the money for literally the worst cabin on a cruise ship. It didn't matter because we never saw the deck. I'm so glad we didn't save up more money for a better cabin or fancier meals. It would have been money wasted because we left the cabin 3 or 4 times during the 10-day cruise. Rob said I took to sex like a duck takes to water. I couldn't get enough of him. During these 10 days, I made up for lost time. During our honeymoon, I went from a protected virgin to Rob's personal slave. We tried everything we could imagine. Over the next few years, we grew closer and closer to each other. We both moved up the career ladder, but we did it on our own terms. We made it clear to our employers that work was important to us, but our marriage was the universe. Rob started in sales and moved into marketing. He probably could have made more money by staying in sales, but promoting there would have meant frequent travel. We both didn't want this. It was the same with me. I worked like a horse. All my bosses claimed that I was one of the hardest working employees in the company. The only problem they had with me was that no matter what happened during the workday, when it was time to go home to my husband, I left. There have been times when I've been told that if I can't stay late after work, I'll probably be fired. Okay, I replied to my manager. I liked working here, but I can easily find another job. But replacing a husband will be much more difficult, if not impossible. Over time, our assets grew. We moved from one apartment to a better one and finally bought a beautiful house. And under pressure from his mother, Rob and I began to seriously discuss the possibility of having children. Rob joked that my body clock was ticking so loudly that he could hear it from outside. We planned everything: when I should stop taking birth control pills, when I should quit my job, and even what months I would prefer to be pregnant. We decided to start trying in late summer. There was nothing wrong with our marriage at that time. In fact, it was perfect, too perfect to last. And that was mainly thanks to Rob. Have you heard about marriages that become boring over time? Rob didn't let that happen. He always surprised me with small gifts, flowers, or vacations. We always had a few dates throughout the week and took classes together to try new activities and keep the relationship fresh. We took acting lessons one summer just for fun. The following summer, we took up fencing. The summer before it all ended, we tried rock climbing and realized we were both afraid of heights. Our sex life was magical, but unfortunately, I didn't realize it. I think I started to take Rob and everything he did for me for granted. I worked in an office full of people, mostly women, who were much younger than my 36 years. When I told them that I had been married for 14 years, their eyes would roll. I had no stories of showing up to work with a hangover from too much alcohol and sore private parts. I didn't have any comparisons to discuss whether hard sex was better than a regular meeting at the cleaning station with a man whose name you never learned. I've never lied to get out of a situation where I forgot I was going out with someone because I had 2 or more guys planned on the same evening. I have never had sex with more than one man at the same time. In fact, one of the secretaries told me that I was sexually retarded. I was an anachronism, a relic of the early 20th century. They don't make people like me anymore. I started obsessively thinking about sex with someone other than Rob. It started to take over most of my everyday thoughts. I mentioned in conversation one day that I was thinking about asking Rob to let me try it. All the women immediately told me to shut up. "Are you out of your mind?" they asked. "Your husband will never let you do this. Men are like little boys. They all want to keep us locked up, reserving us only for themselves. It doesn't matter if your husband is cheating on the side, which he probably is. You can never let him know that you want to try another man. In his mind, it becomes a competition. Once you do this, you will create a lot of problems for yourself. Don't tell him, just do it," they said. "Besides, even if he lets you do it, at some point you will have to give him your turn. Are you ready to let him have another woman, probably younger than you, with a nicer butt and bigger breasts?" "Every man on earth doesn't want an ordinary woman like you, Cheryl," said my friend Tina. She pointed to the other side of the office. "They all want girls like Molly." Molly was a temporary employee who had just graduated from college. She was 5'10", weighed 115 pounds, had a 22 inches waist and natural 36 DD breasts. "Can you compete with something like that?" Tina asked. I shook my head, especially knowing that Molly, although she worked as a model to pay for college, had confided in me that she was looking for a marriage like mine and a husband like Rob. The thought of Rob having sex with her in exchange for my desire to try another man scared me. I could never get him back. That decided everything. The only thing left to do, since I was only going to try it once, was to decide what kind of guy I wanted. They all had their advantages, and I needed to really choose something different. After a few days of thinking, I made up my mind. I think it was partly because of the thoughts of Rob and Molly that I decided that youth and enthusiasm were something worth trying. I ended up dating one of our college interns, David Parker. It took several weeks to build the relationship. I started spending time with him outside of work, and finally got to the point where he accidentally touched me. When I moaned in response to his awkward movement, he did everything to get me into the hotel room one Wednesday during lunch break. He didn't care if I liked it or not. When we finished, he simply left the room. I lay there feeling cheap and cheated. I cried and had only myself to blame. When I got home, I couldn't look Rob in the eyes. I had to pretend I was sick and go to bed. He did everything to make me feel even worse. He arched his back, trying to take care of me. He tried everything he could to make me better. I felt like dirt. I didn't deserve such a good husband. A few days later, everyone at work found out that I had slept with David. He told everyone he could. He even started calling me his married prostitute. A lot of people at work started staying away from me, and a lot of guys started hitting on me. One of the managers even tried to drag me into the storage room and asked me to please him. I realized that for a while I was untouchable and special. Predators usually avoid faithful married women. But I moved to the camp of easily accessible girls, and now I have become an accessible target. David continued to press me and demand that I continue. I refused and told him that I would file a sexual harassment complaint if he mentioned it again. He was young enough that threats, although unfounded, would work. The thing I hated most about David was that he only spoke to me when no one else was around. He bragged to all the guys that he accepted me, but he did this only to improve his reputation. It seemed to me that although I thought he was young and attractive, and it flattered my ego that I could still have an affair with someone who had just turned 20, he saw things differently. He didn't think I was attractive, just an easy target. Besides that, he was embarrassed that people might think he was interested in someone as old as me. He once even told me that I was only a couple of years younger than his mother. Of course, the same woman who helped me decide to do it the first time convinced me that I had simply chosen the wrong type of man. Tina reminded me that I got involved with Rob when we were both young. Maybe I needed a caring, gentle older man with even more sexual experience than Rob. Someone who will also play it safe because he will have nothing to lose, just like me. Normally, I would never have thought about this, but they put so much pressure on me to do something to get over the experience with David that I started to give up. They also made it clear that I had been acting differently since I slept with David, and if I had kept it up, Rob might have noticed a change. Neither of us knew, but Rob was no fool. We've been together too long for him to not recognize me. He knew something was wrong from the very first day I returned home sick. He didn't know what exactly I did, but his radar was on. I met Henry on the internet. I was actually looking for an older man to have sex with. He seemed perfect. His wife was dying in the hospital. Her illness dragged on. He hadn't had sex in years and missed it. He sought out secret relationships to occasionally satisfy his desires. I felt so sorry for him that I cried. It seemed to me that it was almost my duty to help this poor man in his pain. I felt even sadder after our first time. It took several hours to arouse him. I think the saddest moment was when I found out that the whole story about my sick wife was a lie. He was just a fraud. He wanted more sex than his wife could give him, even though he couldn't get aroused himself. When I left the motel, I realized that this scoundrel even stole all the cash from my wallet. I had to leave my bag, Idaho, and cell phone with the motel manager so I could go to the ATM and withdraw money to pay for the room. I couldn't afford for Rob to see the motel bill on his credit card statement. As bad as I felt then, it became even worse when I returned home. I took a shower to look attractive for Rob. Rob and I had sex fairly regularly, usually 4 or 5 nights a week. The problem wasn't our sex, it was my head. Apparently, I was already beginning to take him for granted, and I vowed that I would never make that mistake again. It took several days before Rob fully recovered from his cold and returned to our bed. He was still too tired for sex, and I was literally going crazy. Another problem was that he was still afraid that he might be contagious, so he didn't want to hug me. The bitches at work were still putting pressure on me. They were now sure that it was not a matter of age. I told them I vowed not to cheat again, but they reminded me that I had already done it twice, and it didn't hurt my marriage. It's better to get it out of your system, and then have children in peace and live the rest of your life without regrets, like, I wish I had done this or that. Since Rob was still unwell and I was incredibly horny, I gave in. We left work early and went to a bar they knew about. That way I could meet a few guys and still get home in time without Rob noticing. I really thought I was protecting Rob the way he always protected me. After all, I tried not to let him know how much I suffered and wanted to try it all. To my surprise, a few minutes after we arrived, a guy named Greg, whom several of my work friends knew, came to our table. It turned out that Greg knew several of them very well. He explained that he was only into no-strings-attached relationships. He seemed a bit of a gigolo to me, but to be honest, I would never have fallen in love with him anyway. He was too self-confident and arrogant. I took his phone number so we could meet and finish this matter. After being tricked by Henry at the motel, I decided to satisfy my latest curiosity on my own turf. I took the next day off and called Greg for an early afternoon visit. He arrived around 1 p.m., which I thought would give me about 4 hours with him before I needed to change the bed sheets, air out the house, and get myself ready for Rob. We had rough sex all over the house. Then I heard applause behind me. Greg and I turned our heads at the same time. He was too exhausted to move, and I was crushed by his weight. I almost fainted, realizing that I was in more serious trouble than I had ever been in my life. "Hey, man," Greg began. "Don't say a word," Rob warned. "I'll just pack my things and leave. But if you open your mouth, I swear I will kill you." "She came to me herself. This is not my F." Greg began stupidly. To this day, I still don't understand why he spoke. Rob said he was leaving and that he should just keep quiet, but Greg absolutely had to open his mouth. Although Greg was physically larger than Rob, he could not match the rage that seethed within Rob. Greg was exhausted from pounding me for almost 15 minutes. A wave of adrenaline and pure hatred was seething inside Rob. Rob grabbed Greg by the neck and one of his arms and pulled him away from me. Greg screamed and started begging Rob, but it didn't help. Rob's right hand struck Greg in the face quickly and hard several times, while his left hand held him in place. He then slammed his head hard onto the floor and dragged him down the wooden steps by one leg. He simply opened the door and threw an unconscious Greg onto our lawn. I expected Rob to turn around, rush back upstairs, and start yelling at me or hit me, but he didn't. He just looked at me for a long time. I felt the weight of every tear that flowed down his cheeks as he looked at me. Then he simply turned around and left the house. My brain refused to work. I just stood there. Then, after a few minutes, I realized that he was probably outside, still beating Greg. I needed to be prepared to beg him not to leave. He said he was going to take his things and leave. I ran back to the bedroom and stood in front of his dresser. I won't let him take anything from this house unless he takes me with him. I waited there for several long minutes, my back pressed against his dresser. I have to do whatever he wants so that he doesn't leave me. I knew he would never hurt me, so I felt safe trying to stop him from taking his things and leaving. But I also felt like the stupidest woman in the world because I knew that no matter what I did, our relationship would never be the same again. I've read stories about marriages where there was betrayal. About half of them ended in divorce. This couldn't happen to us. I loved Rob too much for that. After some time, I began to wonder why he had been gone for so long. I went downstairs and noticed that Greg was just starting to come to his senses. Rob's car is missing. He didn't take anything. He didn't pack his things. He just left. He walked out of my life without a word. Damn, he had to come and get his things so we could talk. Greg began to crawl towards the house. When he reached the porch, I slammed the door in his face. He stood on my porch in the middle of the day, completely naked. I would never let him back into the house. What if Rob comes back and sees him inside again? Rob might think I'm on Greg's side. But I didn't worry for long. The police arrived a few minutes later. They sat Greg down on my porch and called an ambulance. Then they knocked on my door. There were no cars in the yard, and I thought that if I just pretended that no one was home, maybe they would leave. But then I realized that I had to do something so that Greg and my versions would not diverge. I knew Greg had as much to lose as I did. He was married like me, which explained his no strings attached policy. I opened the door and started screaming. "I'm so glad you're here, officers," I said. "I saw that poor guy being attacked and his clothes stolen. I was afraid to open the door. I was afraid that the criminals might still be nearby." "Can you describe them, madam?" asked one of the officers. "No way," I said. "They will come back and take revenge on me. My name is West. Leave me alone." "There were 4 of them," Greg croaked. "Big bikers. After they took my money, they just took off all my clothes for fun." "Madam, are you sure you don't want to say anything?" asked the officer. "If no one comes forward, these guys may never be caught." "I have nothing to say," I replied. "I hope you can sleep tonight, lady," the second cop said. "I hope someday something happens that ruins your life and you wish someone would intervene to prevent it." "Trust me, officer," I said, barely holding back tears. "After what happened today, I don't think I'll ever be able to sleep peacefully again, and my life is not at all as rosy as you think." After they left, I collected all of Greg's clothes, his phone, and his car keys. I was sure that sooner or later he would return for them. He will need his documents and phone, and probably his car keys. I just sat in the kitchen, wearing only a silk robe, which I threw on before opening the door to the police. I didn't cry, didn't move, just listened to the ticking of the clock. The phone rang, and I jumped up to see who was calling. I was hoping it was Rob. But it was Tina from work. I let the phone go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. I jumped up again, hoping it was Rob, but again it was Tina. "Hello, Tina," I said tiredly. "Please don't call me again today. I'm not in the mood to talk." "This is not just a friendly call," she said. "I'm trying to help you and Greg with damage control. Do you have all his clothes, phone, wallet, and car keys?" "I have his clothes, phone, and car keys," I said. "I didn't find my wallet. It's probably in his pants." "Great, I'll pick it up in a few minutes," she said. "As soon as Greg has the phone, you can call tomorrow to coordinate your versions. Greg's wife is working late today. We're going to tell her that he was robbed by bikers, the same story you told the police. You can discuss together what was done to it and what they looked like. You may both have to testify. We have to protect Greg's marriage." "I'll throw his junk out on the lawn as soon as I finish talking to you," I said sharply. "I don't need to talk to him because I don't care about his marriage." "Cheryl, what's wrong with you?" she asked. "What about my marriage, Tina?" I screamed. "Who's going to try to save my marriage?" I started crying. "What are you talking about?" she asked. "I'll be right there." She hung up. A few minutes later, Tina drove up to my house. She knocked on the door, and I opened it to give her Greg's clothes and keys. "What's happened?" she asked. I told her the whole story. She was shocked. "Did your husband beat Greg like that?" she asked. I nodded. "He still hasn't come home," I said. "I don't know what to do. We were never apart." "I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that your sweet little hubby beat up Greg," she said. "Did he take a lot of his stuff when he left?" "No," I replied. "He just left the house." "Then you need to stay home for a few days," she said. "If he's really that mad at you that he doesn't want to see you, he'll try to get his things while you're at work." "That's probably what he'll do," I said. "Why do you care?" she asked. "You yourself wanted to replace him, didn't you? I mean, you've been cheating on him for the past few weeks because you wanted to try something new. This usually happens when a woman either wants to end her marriage or suspects that her husband is cheating on her. So which of these is true?" "Neither," I replied. "Rob will never cheat on me, just like I will never cheat on him. I can't replace him. He's perfect for me. In fact, I realized this right before I started this whole Greg thing." "Cheryl, why were you sleeping with other men then?" she asked. "Because whether you like it or not, honey, that's exactly what you did. You cheated on your husband." "But I was only listening to you," I screamed. "The only man I've ever been with is Rob. You all talked about variety, trying new things and different guys. It made me feel old and boring. Cheryl, why do you think we go to clubs and bars all the time? She asked me. Because it's fun and exciting, I said. No, she said sadly. We do this because it's better than coming home to an empty apartment alone. Ask any girl who does this. We are all looking for someone who will love us and take care of us always. We want someone who won't judge us or just have and leave us and who won't cheat on us. We are all looking for someone to love us like you do. I bet every woman you've talked to in the office is just jealous of what you have. That's why we all hate that bitch Molly. She is the only one who admits what she wants. So we're all trying to pretend we're okay with what we're doing, but I bet any of those women would gladly trade places with you. Oh no, I said, realizing what I had done. Do you know how many times I went home with some guy, let him have me, and pretended that terrible sex was good, only for him to then take me to a party, she asked. And when sex is truly great, it's when the other person is really trying to please you because they love you. She shook her head. And most of the time you realize that they don't care about you. They will only call you as long as you agree. Even then, as soon as a guy gets bored with you or gets tired of having sex with you, he leaves. Unless you do something wilder. At first, they just want you so badly that they will do anything to get it. She spoke as if she had been through it herself. Once they get it, the power shifts. You have to keep giving to them to keep them. Trust me, every one of those women in the office was always jealous of you. I started crying even louder. Hey, she said, it might not be as bad as you think. If he loves you as much as you've always said he does, maybe he'll forgive you. But whatever you do, be here when he comes back for his things. Call all his friends you know and find him, but never stop fighting for him. Never give up. You'll never find love like this again. While we were talking, she was going through Greg's clothes, but she couldn't find his wallet. She asked me to return it when I found it. The next morning, I called work again and said I was sick. I put on Rob's favorite outfit and started cooking his favorite dish. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and waited. By lunchtime, he did not call and did not return home. I made a list of all of Rob's friends and started calling them. Nobody saw him. I called his work and was told that Rob was taking the day off. In desperation, I finally called his mom. She hadn't heard of him either. I checked our bank accounts and found good news. Rob did not withdraw money from the accounts or close them. He didn't even use his credit card for the hotel yesterday or today. My heart ached, my head ached, my soul ached, but all I could do was wait. I finally called the police and filed a missing person report. They asked me some stupid questions and said they would get back to me. They thought Rob might have run off with another woman, and if so, he had a right to do so. I could divorce him for abandonment if he was gone for a certain amount of time. They said they would contact me if there were any leads and hung up. That night, I fell asleep on the couch out of pure exhaustion. As soon as I woke up, I ran around the house to see if anything had changed or if he was here. The next morning, I called all of Rob's friends again. Again, no one heard from him. Finally, when I reached one of Rob's best friends, Danny Ames, I got a reaction. This time I didn't talk to Danny because he was at work. I talked to his wife. If I had spoken to Danny, I probably would have gotten the same reaction as yesterday. But women are different. We haven't seen him, she said. Her voice was very tense and harsh. Something clicked in my head. Are you sure? I asked. Obviously, this was the last straw, and she gave away everything that was in her soul. Rob is one of the nicest guys I know, she snapped. Why don't you just leave him alone, you bitch? You've already caused him so much pain that he's going to leave town. Can't you just leave him alone? You literally destroyed this man. He quit his job and is now homeless. He left you everything he had, but you also had to twist the knife and poke him in the face. No wonder so many men just hate women. A bitch like you ruins our lives. Then she became silent and was breathing so loudly that I could hear it through the phone. Cheryl, can I ask you a question? She asked. How does it feel to know that you broke the heart of someone who loved you selflessly? I saw you two together. Remember, we had barbecues and parties together. I know how he treated you. How does it feel to know that someone loved you so much and you just took their heart in your hands and crushed it? Are you feeling good now? Apparently not, because you're still trying to torture him. Cheryl, just leave him alone. You won, you completely destroyed him. He will never be the same, so just leave him alone. If you ever loved him in all the time you were married, just leave him alone. Then she hung up so hard that my ears were ringing for a while. I couldn't help myself. I started crying again. Why doesn't anyone see that I'm in pain too? I loved Rob as much as he loved me, and I knew it was my fault that we ended up in this situation. I was dying inside, but no one cared. Maybe 2 hours later, the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. "Hello," I said in a wooden voice. "Where should I send his things?" shouted the indignant woman. At first, I thought she was talking about Rob. I told Greg the last time he tried to pull this bullshit that if he cheated on me again, it was over between us. Now he is completely yours, home destroyer. As soon as I find out where you live, I will beat you to a pulp. But first, I'll show you a photo. I want to see if you're so insensitive that you don't care that the man you're cheating with had 3 small children who depended on him. How could he do this to his children? A bitch like you probably doesn't have children. You just want to have sex with whoever you want, and there are no consequences. You just destroyed our family, so I hope you feel really good now, bitch." Then she hung up too. I didn't understand why she blamed me. I didn't know Greg had children. Hell, I barely knew he was married. He made it seem like his wife, and he were going to get a divorce. I think they'll probably actually get divorced now. I felt sorry for the children. But as cold as it may sound, this is Greg's problem and his responsibility, not mine. My problem was to get Rob back, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get there. I decided to go to Danny's house and talk to Angie. She might want to beat me up, and I'll let her do it if she tells me anything about Rob. But she was the only person I knew who admitted to seeing him in the last 2 days. I was torn between going to Angie's and what if Rob came home and got his things while I was gone. I called Angie and begged her to come and talk to me. I begged her, for the sake of the entire time we'd known each other, to at least let me speak, and if she didn't like what I had to say, she could just leave. If she can figure out that I just made a mistake, maybe she'll tell me what she knows. She said she would think about coming, but didn't think it was a good idea. She said she was afraid that if she saw me, she might beat me up, so maybe we should talk on the phone. Then she added that perhaps she would come after all or just call back. Or maybe he will do neither one nor the other. I felt like she had to call someone to make a decision. I didn't know if she wanted to call Rob or Danny, but I hoped she would tell me something. I dozed off again, sitting at the kitchen table. A knock on the door woke me up. I looked out the window and saw a woman standing on my back porch. "I walked around the house when I didn't see anyone in front," she said with a smile. She looked like a girl just out of college. I was sure that she was selling something, and I wanted to get rid of her as quickly as possible and return to my misfortune. "Are you Cheryl Thomas?" she asked joyfully. "Yes," I replied. I thought that these sales companies were probably starting to buy identities and information about potential clients, just like they do on the internet. She handed me a stack of papers, and I reflexively accepted them. "It's been handed to you." She smiled even wider. "Have a nice day, ma'am, and don't forget to spay or neuter your pet." There should be a law against what that little bastard did to me. I haven't eaten anything for the last 3 days. I became depressed and could barely hold on. When I looked at the papers she handed me and read them, I fell into even greater shock and collapsed on the floor. The heading on the top of the papers read, "Claim for dissolution of marriage." As I fell to the floor, I remember my eyes focusing on her tight, firm little ass that swayed flirtatiously from side to side as she walked away from me. This bitch was actually reading another stack of papers as she walked. Is this really her damn job? She just ruins one marriage after another all day and then goes home and has dinner. Maybe one day she'll have to serve her own husband with divorce papers. I wanted to kill this bitch, But I realized that she didn't destroy my marriage, I did. But I was determined to save him. I thought I had good relations with my neighbors. At least that's what I thought. I don't know how long I lay curled up in the doorway holding those damn papers, but when I came to, I noticed that my neighbor, Mr. Smithers, was mowing his lawn. I was lying there, curled up in the doorway, in full view of everyone, and he was just cutting his damn grass. Maybe he thought that either debauchery or stupidity was contagious. Maybe he thought that after what I'd done, I should just lie there and rot. I also noticed that my phone was ringing. I picked up the phone and said hoarsely, "Hello?" I was sure it was Angie, but it was a man. "Good morning, Mrs. Thomas, or whatever you want to call yourself," he said. "I would like to make arrangements to come and pick up the papers and my check. I'm tired of people acting like I know what's going on." "Who are you?" I asked coldly. "Forgive me," he said. "I'm Oscar Goldman. I am representing your ex-husband in a divorce case. According to our agreement, I must come and pick up the papers and check from you. In a few months, everything will be finished and decided." "Wait, Perry Mason," I growled. "I'm not a lawyer, but I know that's not how it works. I should hire a lawyer too. We then set up meetings and discuss whether both parties want a divorce and whether we can go to counseling. Then, if we can't resolve our differences, we schedule more meetings to discuss the division of property, blah, blah, blah. But believe me, there will be no divorce here." "No, ma'am," he replied sharply. "In our state, if you are married without children, you can get a no-contest divorce in 90 days if there are no issues regarding property or child support. I do this for a flat fee of $189. My client assures me that this is one of those cases. I assume you have already received the papers and have seen his proposed agreement." "First of all, I haven't had a chance to look at your damn papers yet," I screamed into the phone. "And secondly, this divorce will definitely be contested. I will never agree to divorce him. And whatever he tries to use to buy me out of marriage, it won't work." "Everyone has their price," he smiled. "Which one is yours?" "I have no price," I hissed. "Stop, I changed my mind. Yes, I have a price. I will give him a divorce if he gives me what I want more than anything in the world." "What is this?" he asked. "I want my husband back," I said. Then I finally hung up. I wasn't an idiot. I looked through the papers and started crying again. Rob gave me everything except the car he drove away in and the clothes he was wearing. He even offered to return the car when he got to where he was going. I had my own car. Why would he think that I needed his in addition? It was obvious that Rob just wanted to get away from me. He was ready to just leave, and he left. I still had the house, all of our money, which was mostly his, all of our investments, even his clothes and personal items. He gave me everything he had just to get rid of me. He didn't even tell anyone what I did. He just wanted freedom. But I loved him too much to give it to him. Almost a month later, despite the fact that I hired a lawyer and tried to challenge the divorce, the judge approved it. He wondered what I had done to Rob to make him literally just walk out of the house and leave me everything he had worked for almost 15 years to get away from me. My lawyer immediately raised the issue that Rob was making significantly more money than I was, so there had to be some kind of alimony agreement. The judge thought it was my idea, so he approached me. "Woman, when this man left this state, he was homeless. As far as I understand, he quit his job and left you everything he had, even his clothes. What else can you take from him? Do you want me to put him in jail too?" God, I wish this judge could put Rob in jail. I would have been there with him right away. I would talk to him every day until he forgave me. Your Honor, my client has not had the opportunity to even briefly speak with her husband since he left her. Usually a meeting is envisaged between the offended spouses to resolve issues, my lawyer said. Lawyer, you read too many damn internet stories about divorce. There is no law or statute that provides for this. All documents have been submitted correctly. Divorce granted. If I had any say in the matter, I would have changed the property division to the standard 50-50, but this poor guy just wanted to walk away with the rest of his dignity. Let's leave it to him. The divorce will be finalized in 60 days. Next thing. He hit his hammer, looked at me, and shook his head. I was sure he muttered, "bitch," under his breath. He then called the next case. I quit my job. I couldn't work there anymore. Every guy thought I was an easy target and desperate. All the women thought I was stupid. I stayed home for a while, living off our savings. I used some of our investment to pay off my mortgage and refinance it so I could afford a house on my own. I tried to improve relations with some of our friends, but no one wanted to be friends with me. Apparently, rumors quickly spread about what I had done, how I destroyed 2 families and deprived 3 small children of their father. I also humiliated Rob, who everyone thought was a decent person and who didn't deserve what happened to him. It seemed like no one cared about my pain. About a month after our divorce was finalized, Greg showed up. He was drunk and wanted sex. He said I owed him because he didn't tell anyone that it was Rob who ruined his face. I tried to close the door on him, but he put his foot in it to hold it open. I snapped the chain shut and ran to the kitchen to grab the biggest knife I could find. When he reached through the door to try to remove the chain, I cut him. A small cut, and he knew I was serious. He looked at me in surprise. I think he thought I was playing some kind of game, but I hated the bastard. "You'll never have me again," he chuckled. "Bitch." "Oh, look," I smiled. "My husband is arriving." Greg looked back, and it seemed to me that fear showed on his face. He didn't want to deal with Rob again. He ran away, and I never saw him again. Over the past few months, I have begun to rebuild my relationship with Rob's mom. She always considered me a daughter, and I think I convinced her that I loved her son more than life itself. She knows that I made a colossal mistake that I may never be able to correct. She has forgiven me and sometimes reads cards and emails from him to me, but she will not take my side or try to help me contact him. She didn't even tell me he was back in this state. There will never be another man for me, that's for sure. That's why I didn't go out to bars with you anymore, even tonight. Like I said, my intention was to just have a drink and go home. I went because I really couldn't stand being alone today. That's probably why Rob came out tonight too. Connie looked into Cheryl's eyes and noticed how tears began flowing down her friend's cheeks again in fresh streams. Something made her very upset again. "What's so bad about tonight?" Connie asked. "Today would have been our anniversary," Cheryl replied, crying. "Well, then tonight is a great time to start, isn't it?" Connie asked. "Start what?" Cheryl asked through tears. "Our plan is to get him back," Connie said. "Are you still talking about some kind of retribution?" Cheryl asked. "Why should you take revenge? He didn't do anything wrong, did he? To be honest, you did it. But when I talked about coming back, I meant the 2 of you reuniting," Connie said. "Are you serious?" Cheryl asked, perking up. "Sure, seriously," Connie said. "I know it seems impossible, but it's actually not that hard." Cheryl looked at Connie strangely. "Why do you think so?" she asked. "Because you both still love each other," Connie said. "That kind of love is very difficult to find. So that must mean something. It may take some time, and we will have setbacks and mistakes along the way, but if you are willing to commit yourself fully to it, we can do it." "I will do whatever it takes to get Rob back," Cheryl said. "Okay, then we need to start planning," Connie said. "What does he think about what happened between you?" "I don't know," Cheryl said. "I haven't spoken to him since he caught me. He just disappeared and no one said anything to me. Even the people who knew where he was didn't tell me anything. When I saw him tonight, it was the first time I've seen him since this happened." "No wonder you're so excited," Connie said. "I didn't even know he was back in town, let alone that he was working somewhere nearby. I don't know anything else about him," Cheryl said. "Well, except for one thing." "And what is this?" Connie asked. "That there is one woman who will love him until the last day of her life," Cheryl said. "No matter what." "Sorry, honey," Connie said, "but this doesn't help us. We need specific information about what he is like now. This experience with you has probably changed him. Did you notice anything different about him?" "Well, he seems more muscular," Cheryl said, and he seems less open, less trusting than before. He just seems sadder. What did you expect? Connie asked. Sweetheart, if he loved you as much as you say, what you did to him probably made him feel like you ripped his heart out of his chest with a shovel and handed it to him. He won't trust anyone easily, especially a woman, and especially not you. He will probably do anything to avoid having to feel that way again. So it will be very difficult. But not impossible, right? Cheryl asked with a hint of desperation in her voice. Why do you want to do this? Connie asked, changing the subject. Do you want this for yourself? Do you need to get him back to regain what you once had? Or do you just like the way he has sex with you? Why is this so important to you? Because I love him, and without him I'm nothing, Cheryl said. My life hasn't felt like life since he left. It's like just a mechanical existence until I can die. You can't get it from another man? Connie asked. There are a lot of men out there and a lot of women who are looking for someone to love. Can't you just go looking like the rest of us? I tried with other men, Cheryl replied sharply. And it's not just about sex. No other man I've met makes me feel the way Rob does. My stupid decision to try other men wasn't because I didn't like Rob or that I was tired of him. I just wanted to understand what those stupid women in my old office were talking about. If I had known that it would cost me my marriage, I would never have taken the risk. I would remain curious for the rest of my life. Okay, but I have to warn you, this will probably be painful for both of you, Connie said. If you love him as much as you say you do, how can you be willing to put him through all the pain that would cause? She looked at Cheryl. I mean, if you love someone that much, why make them suffer? Because he's already suffering, just like me, Cheryl said. At least this way he will have an end to his suffering and a light at the end of the tunnel where we will be together again and ultimately happy. If we don't stay together, I'm not sure either of us will last much longer. Okay, I'll start on Monday, Connie said. All her questions convinced her that they were doing this for the right reasons. What will you start? Cheryl asked excitedly. The first thing we need to do is get close to him. Luckily, I know his buddy Roger from the bar. I'll go to his work on Monday morning and ask him to introduce me to Rob. I'll get Rob to agree to talk to me. When he feels comfortable in my presence, I will try to find out how he feels about you. Then I will gradually convey information about you and how you feel to him. Our goal is for him to eventually agree to talk to you. When we achieve this, we will see what to do next. Sounds great, Cheryl said enthusiastically. Then her expression changed. What do you get out of this? She asked. I'm a firm believer that what goes around comes around, Connie said. Until now in my life, I have had a lot of fun, and lately this has become my problem. I've reached the point where I don't want to be that fun girl anymore. I want something like what you had. So maybe if I help you find your true love again, someday someone will help you find mine. Connie spent Saturday trying on different outfits in front of the mirror at home. She had to be very careful in how she approached Rob. It would be very different from every other man she had ever chased. Connie knew her strengths and weaknesses from her teenage years and knew how to maximize some and minimize others. Usually her plan was to wear a tight skirt and low-cut blouse and frequently bend over in front of the guy. It usually worked, but Rob wasn't a ladies' man, and he was already badly hurt, so a direct attack wouldn't work. She'll probably only scare him. Early Monday morning, she took a shower and applied a light floral scent. She didn't want her scent to overwhelm him. She wore shapewear because she knew she had a little extra around her waist. In addition, it made her breasts and buttocks more expressive. She wore a beautiful dress that, although it wasn't low-cut, still showed off her deep cleavage, making it clear to anyone who looked that she had impressive breasts underneath. She drove to Roger and Rob's office. She saw Roger, and he smiled and waved at her. I've never seen you covered up like that, baby, Roger said. Were you so desperate to see me that you couldn't wait for the next time I showed up at the bar? Roger, honey, Connie drawled. Remember that thing you always wanted so much? You mean that thick, round thing you're sitting on? He grinned. Roger was instantly awake and excited. Uh-huh, Connie said. If you do me a favor, I can't promise you'll get it, but it will get you a lot closer to me considering it, she said. Who do I need to kill? He asked. Do you remember my friend from the other night? She asked. Which one? There were 3 of them at your table, Roger asked. The brunette, she began. Oh, damn, wasn't it the one who was depressed all the time, crying and so hysterical that you had to take her home and prevent me from having any fun? He asked. Yes, that's her, Connie said in a gentle voice. Okay, I'll kill this bitch, Roger snapped. Damn it, she probably wants to get killed herself. She looked so damn miserable. Roger, I don't want you to kill her, Connie began. There's no chance I'll sleep with her, Roger said sharply. There is no benefit in such situations. All these depressed women are too depressed to enjoy sex. Listen, dumbass, Connie interrupted. You couldn't get her into bed even if you wanted to, and I don't want you to do this. Don't you remember? She was married to your friend Rob. Damn it, Roger exclaimed. No wonder the poor guy doesn't want to deal with women. I tried to set him up with someone a couple of times, but he simply ignored them. Then the girls got angry at me. He's probably pretty cute or whatever women like, but as soon as I introduce him to some girl, he just won't talk to her. He acts like it's Friday night. As soon as you approached our table, he immediately disappeared. Roger made a sound like the howling of the wind, which he thought was funny, but made Connie just look at him strangely. Well, they weren't always like this, Connie said. They were very much in love with each other for a long time until something ruined everything and they got divorced. Now they are both unhappy without each other, and I intend to bring them together again. Good luck with that, Roger chuckled. I need you to introduce me to him and stay with us until he starts talking to me, Connie said. Then I can handle it myself. Oh, so you want your friend's man. You seem to be quite the scandalous girl, right? Well, I don't care as long as I get mine. I'm ready for a threesome if you're interested, he grinned. Just do me this favor, please, Connie said, smiling. She thought about what Cheryl had told her, especially the things that pertained to her and Rob's relationship. Connie made several decisions about her own life. The first one was that she was really tired of being the fun girl everyone had and then left alone while they went back to their wives and girlfriends. It's time to find your own partner. She was completely honest with Cheryl about this. It was also true that Connie really wanted to help Cheryl get Rob back. She sincerely wanted to see Cheryl happy, although she doubted that this was possible. The look in Rob's eyes was even worse than Cheryl's. It seemed that his soul was wounded. Connie didn't believe he would ever take back the woman who did this to him. If he does, great for Cheryl, but if he doesn't, Connie wouldn't mind if Rob ended up in her bed one day. Roger took her hand and led her down the corridor. He knocked once on the office door and entered. The man in the office was talking on the phone. He turned to look at them, still talking into the phone. He nodded to Roger and looked at Connie appraisingly. His face showed no emotion as he assessed her. What happened, Rog? Rob asked when he hung up. Yeah, nothing special, bro, Roger said. This concerns your noisy gasoline victim. Be careful about insulting the love of my life, Rob smiled. His tone suggested he was joking when he called the car the love of his life, but Connie wasn't sure he was joking. Anyway, Rob, do you remember that Friday night I finally talked you into going to the bar with us? Rob nodded, and Connie noticed his face and shoulders tense at the memory. I brought Connie to talk to you about your religion, and you just disappeared, Roger said. Connie saw Rob replaying this moment in his head. The tension in his body was so strong that she thought he might break. She needed to somehow diffuse the situation. I hope I didn't do anything to scare you, she said. No, it's not about you, Rob said in a wooden voice. It was someone else. And even when he said someone else, Connie saw that his consciousness seemed to have turned off. It seemed that the thought of Cheryl caused him so much pain that he seemed to lose touch with reality every time. Connie began to wonder if he hated Cheryl that much, or if he still loved her so much that not having her around hurt him so much. Anyway, Connie wants to join your, well, religion. So I thought you could initiate her into the teachings of the Mustang Church, Roger said. Suddenly, Connie realized how smart Roger really was. It was perfect. He gave her a great way into Rob's life. I really want to buy one, she said with delight, but I only saw them from afar, and I don't know anything about how to own such a car. For example, what kind of maintenance needs to be done? I have thousands of questions. Connie noticed that Rob's gaze on her had become softer. When she first walked in, Rob looked at her as if Roger had brought fresh poop and placed it on his desk. Now he looked at her as if he was wondering what she would look like in a Mustang. I have too many questions to bother you while you're working. Maybe we can meet somewhere later. She took the notepad from his desk and wrote down her numbers home and mobile so he could call her later. If you call me on my mobile, I will be in touch at any time, she added. She and Roger walked towards the door. Connie, standing in the doorway, turned around and said to Rob, I promise there will be no one else, just you and me and your car, of course. Then he and Roger closed the door, leaving Rob alone with his thoughts. As soon as Connie and Roger closed the door, Roger noticed that there was no one in the hallway. He took the moment to grab Connie's buttocks. Well, how did I cope? He asked. I have to admit, it was very clever, she said. So I'm entitled to something, he asked. I said I'd think about it. She began. Connie nodded and smiled. She patted Roger on the shoulder. Then you need to convince him to call me, don't you? She said, knowing that she would never have any sexual relations with him again. She kept thinking about what she had learned about Rob and Cheryl. When they met in their 20s, he was already sexually active, but he put it on hold for her. He didn't make an issue of it or complain because, as important as sex was, Cheryl was more important to him. It was like her mother once said many years ago, if a man really loves you, he will wait. All men ever wanted from Connie was sex. If they didn't get it, they moved on to another woman. When they got it, they still ended up leaving. She was just a body to them, and Roger saw only that in her. There couldn't be a future between them, so why waste time on it? There was one more thing that she had never noticed before: jealousy. Rob loved Cheryl so much that seeing her with another man destroyed him. This drove him to the point of violence, almost killing a man and causing him to leave his life, career, marriage, and everything he had. The thought of sharing someone he loved so much drove him crazy, and as she saw, he was still suffering from it. Roger didn't care who slept with Connie. He was ready to share it and even be one of the 5, if only he received his share. If he cared even a little about her, he wouldn't be able to do this. Connie suddenly realized that many of the things she thought about men were probably wrong, and even more, she decided that she needed a man like Rob. Connie left Roger and Rob's office and headed straight to her job. She sat down at her desk and looked through her incoming documents to see what was urgent. She picked up the piece of paper and waved to her boss across the room. He waved back. She called him in advance and warned him that she would be late, so he just nodded. He wasn't as strict with her as he was with the rest of the staff because she pleased him from time to time when he needed it. She pretended to look for the number on the piece of paper in her hands and dialed it on her phone. When the other end of the line answered, she started talking. Cheryl, how are you feeling, dear? She asked. I'm not feeling well enough to go to work today, but I'm feeling better, Cheryl replied. At least I have hope now. Oh, honey, you have even more than that, Connie said. Meet me in the park near work for lunch. Bring me something nice because I skipped breakfast for you. Okay, I'll be there, Cheryl said and hung up. Connie waited impatiently for Cheryl in the small park. Nearby were several mothers with small children who walked unsteadily and rushed around the playground and sandbox nearby. A few minutes later, she saw Cheryl walking towards her with a couple of packed lunches from a nearby cafe. Cheryl looked nervous as she placed the boxes on the bench. Connie opened one and began to eat the sandwich, which contained many different deli meats. Well, Cheryl asked, what got you so excited? Have you come up with something that will help our plan? Oh, much better than that, Connie said. She took a can of Pepsi from the box and opened it. Well, tell me, Cheryl insisted. Okay, Connie said, pretending it didn't matter. I talked to Rob today. I gave him my phone numbers, and I hope that he will call me soon so that we can meet and talk. Cheryl was shocked. She sat down on the bench and did not move for a long time, and then her face broke into a smile. How is he? What did he say? Did he mention me? Did you mention me? Does he hate me? Where was he? How long has he been back in town? She asked all the questions in a hurry, without stopping to take a breath. He's okay, Connie said slowly. He didn't mention you. When I hinted about you, a shadow passed over his face. He was very tense when he thought about you. This is bad, isn't it? Cheryl asked. That means he hates me. And then the tears began to fall. Cheryl, it's too early to judge. We don't know what this means. Maybe it just means he's still upset because he loved you so much, Connie said. We need to give this a little time. Just as Cheryl was ready to ask another round of questions, Connie's phone rang. Hello, Connie said. She smiled and said in a very soft voice, Yes, I would really like that. Yes, of course, I promise. We'll be all alone. Maybe you can show me yours first, and then we'll see what happens. Cheryl just frowned as she listened to the conversation. One of your guys? She grinned as Connie hung up. No, yours, Connie grinned in response. Cheryl's face darkened with anger. Connie laughed at her friend. We were talking about cars, dumbass, she said. The only way he would talk to me was to convince him that I wanted to buy a Mustang. He loves his car so much that it has apparently become something of a religion for him. I think he transferred all the love he felt for you to this car. Cheryl smiled. Why are you smiling like that now? Connie asked. I don't mind him being in love with a car, Cheryl said. I would die if I found out that he was wasting his energy on another woman. I can survive the car. Why? Connie asked. Because he's mine, Cheryl said fiercely. Divorced or not, he is mine. I don't want to hear about him having sex with another woman. It would kill me. You mean how you did this to him? Connie asked. Cheryl turned pale and began to cry. It didn't mean anything. It was just sex. It had nothing to do with my love for him. I just needed to know what it was like, Cheryl said. So how is this different from if he had sex with someone else? Connie asked. You're really confusing me, Cheryl. Women always put men down for chasing sex without understanding romance or the true meaning of emotional connection. You had this guy who worshipped the ground you walked on, and you ruined everything by cheating on him. You constantly try to justify it by saying it was just sex or satisfying curiosity. But when we raise the question that he can do the same, that's another story. It's double standards, isn't it? It just sounds crazy. Cheryl looked at her feet. I can't change the past. I can only make the future better, she said. Cheryl, I really hope you understand what you had, Connie said. Roger told me today that he wouldn't mind being fifth in line to sleep with me. In his understanding, the main thing is that he enjoys it. It made me realize that none of the guys I was with cared about me. Connie also lowered her head. I understand now why you were so upset, but you have to face the fact that you may have hurt him too much to get back what you had. I didn't realize it myself until I saw him today. It was much harder for him than for you. At least you knew what was going on. At least you did the things that ruined your marriage. At least you were looking for something. And he was stunned by the one who was the most important person to him. He may never love or even trust anyone again. I'll let you know what happens when I meet him tonight. When Connie finished work, she drove to the same bar where she first saw Rob. She took the same table where he sat with his friends, including Roger. Since the morning, the thought of Roger had irritated Connie. She had thought several times about the possibility of a more serious relationship between them, but now she realized that this was impossible. Of course, in this idiot's defense, there were many times when she was so overcome with desire that any man would do, and then she looked for Roger. Maybe it was because she was getting older, but things started to feel different. The thought of making love to the same man over and over again made her bored and disgusted. She never had any doubts about married men because she believed she was just borrowing them, not stealing them, because she never intended for anything long-term. But lately, the thought of having her own man has started to make her warm. The biggest shock to her was what happened to Cheryl this afternoon. It wasn't just that she practically attacked poor Cheryl for behavior that she herself had committed in much worse forms, but that after Cheryl left, almost in tears, Connie looked at the mothers with small children, and I felt a feeling of sadness. She even stroked her belly, as if something was growing there. Connie snapped out of her thoughts in time to see Rob slowly approach her table. He moved as if he were walking through long grass and expected to see a snake. She looked at him again. He was tall, about 6 feet 1 inch, and muscular. He had dark hair and eyes. The eyes seemed dark and cynical, but according to Cheryl, this was not always the case. "Hey, Rob," Connie said, putting on her most disarming smile. She signaled to the waitress, who took their orders. Rob actually tried to pay for their drinks until Connie reminded him that she was the one who invited him to the meeting, and therefore she had to pay for the first round. He pulled out several brochures and quote sheets from dealers for several different Mustang models. "Rob, I'm sorry, but I can't lie to you," Connie said. "You're too good for that. No matter what happens between us, I will never lie to you. I will never be dishonest with you in any aspect." He nodded and looked at her. Connie thought he relaxed a little. "I'd really like to see your car," Connie said, "but I don't think I can afford one. The main reason I wanted to talk to you. Well, there are two. You won't like one very much, but I hope you will like the second." He stood up and prepared to leave. "Rob, please don't go," Connie said. "I'm not interested," he said. "Isn't it interesting?" Connie asked. "Roger told me that you want something from me. He warned me to be careful, but he needed me to at least show up because of some agreement you made with him," Rob said. "So Roger told everything," Connie answered sharply. He nodded. "Why did he do this?" "Brothers are more important than women," Rob chuckled. "But you came anyway," she asked. "Why?" "Because he needed me to come so he could get what you promised him. He said you're an easy target, and he wants his way," Rob said regretfully. "Did he tell you what I want?" she asked. "All I know is that it has something to do with her," he said. "But it doesn't matter. I'm done with her. It took me almost a year, but now I am stronger. As the Who song says, I won't be fooled again." "So you're done with her, huh?" Connie asked. He nodded, smiling confidently. "Cheryl," she said. His face darkened. "Cheryl Thomas," she added. He frowned and rubbed his eyes. "Friday was the anniversary of the day you married her. 15 years ago. It was the happiest day of your life, wasn't it?" "No," he croaked. "Are you lying to me, Rob?" she asked. "No," he said angrily. "It was only the second lucky day. The first was the one when I met her." He turned to leave again. "Rob, please don't go," Connie said softly. "I'm not trying to hurt you or hurt you. I'm not even trying to deceive you. I told you what was happening as soon as you sat down. Actually, I like you and I would like to help you, whether you believe me or not." "Why?" he asked. "Rob, I know what you've been through. I heard this from Cheryl on Friday night. I know what she did to you and what it did to her. I know how much you sacrificed for her and how it all ended. I know how meeting her and falling in love with her changed your life. And maybe I want some of that magic for myself," Connie said. "I already told you I don't want to have sex," Rob said. "I'm not offering you sex," Connie said. "I offer you what you need more." "And what is this?" he asked. "Friend," Connie said. "You really need someone to talk to every now and then, even if it's just someone who will listen to you. You've heard of friends with benefits. We can be friends without benefits." He looked at her as if he was considering it. He sat down, which was a good sign. She noticed his shoulders slumped, and he looked terrible. It seemed that all the bravado with which he approached her was just a facade. "I loved her so much," he said. "Rob, she loves you too," Connie said. "More than anything I've ever seen. People aren't perfect, Rob. We all make mistakes and bad decisions. We all take things for granted and only then realize that they are actually conditional. This woman has been living in hell for 11 months now. She had to come to terms with the fact that she did something really stupid that alienated her loved one forever. Can you imagine such pain? His eyes darkened so suddenly that she thought he had blinked. A moment ago, he was sad, depressed, but now an angry bear stood in front of her. He stood up and grabbed Connie's hand, dragging her out of the bar. He led her to his car. She could understand why he loved her. It was the most brilliant black she had ever seen, more polished than most limos. Everything on the car that wasn't black shone with chrome like nothing she'd ever seen. Even the interior was completely black or chrome. When he started the engine, the car vibrated. The next sound she heard was the squeal of tires trying to grip the road. Suddenly, they were suddenly thrown forward at breakneck speed. The cold night air coming through the window calmed Connie slightly. Now, if only he would slow down, she thought. 10 minutes later, they found themselves in front of the lake. He parked at least a foot from the concrete barriers. He explained to her that he was worried about how low the front spoiler was to the ground. "So where did we stop?" he asked. "Oh yes, you talked about hell. You talked about the hell Cheryl went through." Connie nodded and got out of the car. She led him to a bench in front of the gently rolling waves. Under the moonlight, this could have been very romantic under other circumstances. "Do you think the hell she went through is comparable to the fact that I loved a woman so much that I wanted to become a part of her? I loved her so much that I changed my life plans to include her in them. Cheryl was everything to me. Everything I did for us. I always put her first, no matter what. I knew right away when she slept with the first guy. Even after a few days, I waited for her to tell me about it. I knew it had to be a mistake, or she was drunk, or she had been tricked. I tried to forget about it, but I began to wonder if there were others. So I did the cliché thing. I hired a detective to follow her. It was terrible, like I didn't trust her, but I had to know. After all, she was my life. I had already decided not to say anything about the first guy because I didn't want to lose her. I just forgot about my pride and decided to let everything go because I would rather have Cheryl than my pride. When the detective told me about the second guy, I felt bad and literally went home and slept in the guest room because I couldn't see her. I also just stopped having sex with her. I felt like I was dying inside. I couldn't understand why. What did I do wrong? Why doesn't she love me anymore? And then when I got the call from the detective about the third guy, I knew I had to confront her. I was going to just wait for them to finish and leave quietly. But what they said hurt me so much that I could not remain silent. I just wanted her to know that I was still there, and she hurt me so much. I think at that moment I thought that maybe deep down she still cared about me as a person, perhaps as a friend, even if she could never love me the way I loved her, and she did. So I made the biggest mistake of my life. When I walked through the door, they were so busy with each other that they didn't even notice me. I couldn't move, I was just frozen there. It felt like my soul was being torn apart with every move he made. I'm sure women think about it differently, and I've tried to be modern, but I can't. Men are wired to believe that their partners belong to them. And more than that, this was the woman I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. Ever since we became a couple, I foolishly believed that we loved each other and belonged only to each other. My greatest dream was that we would have children and grow old together. Do you know what a pain it is to hear some idiot call your wife his little bad bitch? Do you know what it's like when he asks her if she wants him to knock her up? I almost died when I heard this. My heart was beating so loudly that I was sure they heard it. And then she hurt me again, even worse. I waited, hoped, prayed for her to say no, so that she would remember that this was something meant only for her husband, even if her body no longer belonged to me and perhaps never did. But I very clearly heard her say, "Oh yes, this is what I want." Something inside me died then. I don't think I can ever get it back. Perhaps it was my ability to love or trust or my innocence, but whatever it was gone. I'm a different person now. I'm just not capable of caring about anything anymore. The only thing I appreciate is the car behind us, so I just started applauding them as if I was watching a great movie being played right in front of me. Cheryl became just another available girl for me, and I no longer cared about such women. I warned this guy not to say a word, but he couldn't stop himself from commenting. He forced me to beat him. I was just trying to be modern and mature in this situation. I had already decided to just grab some clothes and leave. After all, Cheryl didn't belong to me. It was her body, and she could share it with anyone. The only reason why one person devotes himself to another is because he loves him. I think it was hard for me to realize that I had dedicated my life to someone who didn't feel the same way about me, so I beat him up. Then I looked at her and just realized that I didn't want to see her anymore. I didn't want any clothes, I just wanted to get as far away from her as possible. She was poison to me. I found a job in a neighboring state and started a new life. None of my friends talked to her. I was very clear that if either of them told her anything about me, he was no longer my friend. The only one I gave a break to was my mom. I knew my mom was getting old and lonely, so I let her talk to Cheryl, but I warned her. If she ever tells Cheryl anything about where I am, I will stop communicating with her. I transferred back here because my mother's health is deteriorating. This city is big enough for both of us. I've been here for over a month now, and I've only run into her once by chance. I'll never go to that bar again. She can take it for herself. I'm not dating, so we won't cross paths. Everything will be fine. I have absolutely no interest in what she does or with whom. She can't hurt me any more than she already has. So please don't tell me any more of that crap about the hell she went through. At least she had a choice. She arranged everything herself. Connie noticed that he became a little calmer. "I'll take you back to the bar," he said. "Sit down," she ordered him. She sat him down on the bench next to her again. "She's not dating anyone. She doesn't do anything. She talks to your mom on the phone and visits her a couple times a week. She's dying because of what she did to your marriage, and so are you. Is there even the slightest chance that you can forgive her?" Connie asked. Rob didn't say anything. The wind made Connie shiver, but she didn't want to leave. Rob was wearing a shirt and sweater. He took off his sweater and draped it over Connie's shoulders. This gesture surprised her. "What do you do for fun, Rob?" she asked. "I wash my car, go to car shows, and work on it," he replied. They talked for about another half hour before Rob drove her back to her car. She drove home and immediately called Cheryl. Connie told Cheryl all the details. Cheryl's heart broke again when she heard that Rob knew about all her adventures. Although it was only 3 times, retelling each of her encounters from his point of view was like being stabbed with a knife. When she heard that he was pretending to be sick to avoid having sex with her, she cried and felt sick about what she had done again. When Connie told her the details from Rob's point of view about the meeting that led to his departure, she even vomited. She imagined herself in his place, watching Greg try to knock her up, even though it was impossible, and she wanted to die. "You didn't tell him that I didn't enjoy sex with Greg or anyone else, and that I was just saying that to get him over it?" she asked. "I don't think he wouldn't believe me," Connie replied. "So my husband really believes that I don't love him and prefer other men?" Cheryl asked. "He must be crazy. I have never loved anyone but him. I respected my parents, but I never felt for them the way I feel for him. He's gone crazy. You have to tell him the truth, Connie. You have to tell him why I did these terrible things," Cheryl said. "Cheryl, you have to give this time," Connie said. "You need to give him time for the pain to subside a little before you try to change his mind." Over the next few weeks, Connie and Rob communicated frequently. First, she called him, and they talked for several minutes. Over time, the conversations became longer and longer, and Rob began to call her himself. Then they started dating and going for car rides. It got to the point where he told her everything. Connie didn't insist on discussing Cheryl. She often told him that Cheryl still loved him, but he ignored it. Connie also told Cheryl in detail about her conversations with Rob. Sometimes Connie would even record their conversations and let Cheryl listen to them, just so she could hear her husband's voice. Cheryl still considered Rob her husband. She agreed to the divorce not because it would end their marriage in her eyes, but because it was what he wanted and she legally could not resist it. Then, a few weeks later, Cheryl came up with the idea of a conference call. She decided to give it a try. She wanted so badly to hear Rob's voice again, at least on the phone. She was also tormented by suspicion and fear. She noticed that Rob's voice sounded excited and animated when he and Connie were just talking about something. He often took her with him to car shows or movies, and they went to the lake and talked a lot. But she also noticed that when they talked about Cheryl, Rob's voice became even and strained. He quickly turned the conversation to another topic. So Connie called Cheryl and then added Rob to the conversation. Rob didn't know that Cheryl was also on the line. He was excitedly telling Connie about his trip to Michigan for the car show last weekend. He went to an exhibition called Mustang Memories and was dedicated only to Mustangs and other Ford cars. While he was there, he saw a woman whom he considered the most beautiful in the world. She had reddish hair and drove a grabber orange Mustang with green stripes. She was so beautiful that he even thought about approaching her, but he chickened out. Connie noticed that Cheryl had muted the phone and then hung up. She told Rob that she had something urgent to do and that she would call him back later. Her reaction was due to two reasons. Firstly, she was worried about Cheryl, and secondly, because Cheryl was right. Connie was really starting to fall in love with Rob. They both didn't need some beautiful woman with a passion for cars interfering with their plans for Rob. She called Cheryl back and tried to calm her down. Connie dialed Cheryl's number, but the phone kept ringing and ringing. Connie felt something was wrong. Finally, after receiving no answer, she called Rob again. He was still happy and ready to discuss what he did at the car show last weekend. During the conversation, Rob talked about all the Mustangs he saw at the show, the special editions, and all the different years and models that were there. Connie didn't want to interrupt him when he was so happy, but she really wanted to know more about this woman. When Rob spoke, Connie felt uneasy. If she had to define her feelings more precisely, it would probably be fear. Everything went the way she wanted. Now some mysterious woman appears and ruins everything. Just a few days ago, before he went to this damn exhibition, he took her to the lake for a full day of picnic. They swam, grilled together, talked, and even built a fire and lay on a blanket looking at the stars as the sun set. It was the best date of her life. He asked many questions about her. Connie had dated many guys, but none of them made her feel the way he did. They had long since crossed the line where all he had to do was make a move, and she would sleep with him on demand. She was not going to deceive herself. She wanted him very much. But she was willing to wait because she wanted not just another fling from Rob, but something special. She knew she was walking a very fine line between two people, Rob on one side and Cheryl on the other. She really had to choose between two things she never had. She never had a close friend because women can be extremely jealous of each other, especially when it comes to a woman who attracts men the way Connie did. She also never had a serious relationship with a man. There were lovers, boyfriends, and affairs, but no potential lifelong relationships. Connie knew she couldn't have both. If she gets Rob, she will lose her friendship with Cheryl. And if she remains loyal to Cheryl, she won't get Rob. As Rob continued talking in the background about the Elena specials, Connie heard a knock on the back door. She wondered who it could be that came to her in the middle of the night on Thursday. She looked through the peephole and was relieved to see Cheryl. Connie told Rob to wait a minute and let Cheryl in. Cheryl looked terrible. She was crying again, her eyes were red, and her short hair was disheveled. Cheryl didn't even bother to look at the clothes she was wearing. She had a sneaker on one foot and a sandal on the other. She put on shorts and a jacket, but under the jacket she only had a bra. Connie put a finger to her lips for silence and put her phone on speaker. Rob continued talking about cars. Connie slowly began to lead him to talk about the woman. At first, when he talked about the car, she asked what color it was. Then she started asking about certain colors of cars he had seen. Then she finally started asking about orange cars, and he mentioned a grabber orange Mustang with green stripes. He spent a lot more time talking about the car than he did talking about the woman, so in Connie's opinion, it wasn't that serious. She began asking him general questions about the woman, such as what color her eyes were or what her voice sounded like. Rob then reminded her that he hadn't actually met the woman. He just saw her at an exhibition. Both Connie and Cheryl smiled at this. Both of them had no reason to worry so much. She's just some unknown woman from out of state. He'll probably never see her again. Connie asked him why he didn't come over and introduce himself. Rob started acting like a teenager. He told her that he was too nervous to approach such a woman, or he didn't think she would pay attention to him, and he doubted that such a beautiful woman would be interested in an ordinary guy like him. By the time they changed the subject, both Connie and Cheryl were extremely relieved. Connie then found out that Rob hadn't actually dated anyone since he left Cheryl, but he told her it was probably time to start doing it. He doesn't trust women anymore except Connie and his mom, but if he doesn't want to be alone for the rest of his life, he'll have to try to meet someone. Maybe you've already met her, and you just need to let her know that she likes you, Connie said. Cheryl's eyes narrowed dangerously. Maybe you just need to take the initiative. Rob, there are two options. Either you tell this woman that you like her, and then she will either say she's not interested or maybe agree to go on a date with you. Or you'll just sit on the sidelines of life, dreaming and wondering what could have been if you had the courage to go after what you want. Cheryl looked like she was about to explode. She pointed at the phone several times. "I'll call you back later, Rob," Connie said. "I can't believe you, you fucking bitch," Cheryl screamed. She was on the verge of both violence and tears. "What are you talking about?" Connie asked with an innocent look. "You want to have my husband for yourself, don't you?" Cheryl asked. "Well, Connie began. "Well, you damn bitch," Cheryl blurted out. "I can't believe I trusted you. I thought you were my friend." "I'm your damn friend," Connie answered. "For several weeks now I have been serving you as a vest on which you shed your tears. I wiped the snot from your nose when you cried. But I'm human, and he's a really great guy. I didn't take a single step towards him to make him love me. I'm trying my best to get you two together again, but if it doesn't work out, why don't I try my luck? Because as my friend, you should know that I will never stop trying to get him back. Whatever happens, if our plan doesn't work, I'll try something else. If he moves, I will do everything I can to find him and wait forever for him to return. I literally mean forever. I've already made mistakes once, it won't happen again. If he marries you, I will sit in my room and wait until you die. I won't try to kill you or poison you. But maybe I'll buy a Connie voodoo doll and stick needles in it every day and slam its head against the wall. And I will continue to be friends with you." "Is it true?" Connie asked. "Why?" "Because every time I come to visit you, I will see him. And I will give him hints that he could have me at any time. And if you ever cheat on him or just hug another man, I will immediately tell him about it, and I will be there to pick up the pieces," Cheryl said. "What if he cheats on me?" Connie asked. "I don't care," Cheryl said cruelly. "Either I'll be the one he cheats on you with, or I'll hope you get a divorce, and either way I'll win. In the end, Rob and I will get back together no matter what." Before Connie could react to Cheryl's tirade, the phone rang again. "We're not done yet. Let him leave a message," Cheryl said in an icy tone. After several calls, they heard Rob leaving a message. "Connie, don't be angry with me, but I thought about what you said." They heard Rob's voice. "I decided that you were right. I need to take a risk. If I want to be happy, I have to take risks. I won't be able to go with you to the lake on Saturday. There's another car show in Michigan, and I'm going to go get that red-haired girl. I'll take the day off and go there tonight to get my car ready for the show. If everything goes well, I might even move there. Thanks for the advice. You are a wonderful friend. I'll call you when I get back." As soon as Rob hung up, Cheryl almost fell. "Now you've ruined everything, you stupid bitch. We'll both lose him. He had almost forgotten about her until you filled his head with your nonsense about taking risks. I hate you." Cheryl got up from the floor and left Connie's house. She got into the car and almost crashed into a tree while driving out of her driveway. She drove away, moving uncertainty along the road, tires squealing. Connie was shocked. She couldn't believe she had convinced Rob to try to meet a woman. She was sure that he was not ready for this and hoped that when he was ready, she would be that woman. All she had done as his friend was lead him to this new woman. She doubted that Rob would sleep with this woman over the weekend, so when he returned, she would have to play big. If Rob was healed enough to start looking for a woman, he was healed enough to start seeing them. Connie was going to make sure he noticed what she had to offer, despite what Cheryl thought. As Connie closed the door, she heard a loud crash. It sounded like something happened just a few blocks away. She had a bad feeling. She grabbed her cell phone from the table and ran out the door. Rob's phone rang as he was driving down the highway. He decided not to answer. After a few rings, the call was forwarded to an answering machine. He hated talking on the phone while driving. Driving was a special time for him, just him, his favorite car, and the road. Rob liked to drive fast, so he constantly had to be on guard to avoid getting caught or bumping into police cars. The damn phone didn't stop ringing. He took it from the cup holder and looked at the iPhone screen. It was Connie. Hell, he told her he'd call her when he got back. He decided to answer. "What?" he answered sharply. "Rob, are you on your way already?" Connie asked, ignoring his rudeness. "Yes, already," he said. The tension in his voice conveyed obvious anger. "Well, you need to go back now," she said. "I don't know how to tell you this, but Cheryl crashed the car. She was seriously injured and is now in the hospital." Connie heard a loud noise, as if Rob had dropped his phone, and then the sound of squealing tires. "I'm on my way," Rob said. "Which hospital is she in?" Half an hour later, Rob burst into the visitor's lounge. Connie saw him and ran over to hug him. Rob asked her, "What happened? How bad is it? Where is she?" "She's still in surgery, Rob," Connie said. Rob looked shocked. "They're putting a pin in her right ankle to stabilize it. The right leg is broken in 2 places. The left leg and left arm are also broken. She has a severe head injury and has not yet regained consciousness. Doctors are worried about a possible concussion or worse. Even if there is no brain damage, recovery will take several months." Rob closed his eyes and shook his head. "She left very depressed, Rob. She was driving recklessly, but that wasn't the main problem. She forgot to turn on the headlights. A car driving at the intersection did not see her without headlights and crashed into her. It was just an accident." "What could have upset her so much?" he asked. Rob began pacing back and forth across the room. Connie looked at him. "What's wrong with her? How could she be so careless?" he shouted. "Please, God, let her be okay." "Why would she do something so stupid?" asked Rob. Connie stood in front of Rob, blocking his path. "Rob, I can answer your questions," she said. "But you won't like it, and you won't believe it. The reason she was so upset was because of you. Believe it or not, this woman still loves you. She was so upset that you were going to travel to another state in pursuit of another woman." Rob seemed stunned. It seemed like the very possibility that Cheryl still had some kind of feelings for him just couldn't wrap his head around it. "Connie," Rob said, "until she gets better, let's just agree not to discuss all these issues. Let's focus on doing everything we can to get her better. Then we will deal with accusations and apologies." They waited a long time. At first, they thought that the doctors had forgotten them. The operation lasted more than 4 hours. It was almost morning when the doctor entered the room and spoke to them. He said that Cheryl had been moved to a room on the 3rd floor and that she was resting. "Can we see her?" Connie asked. "Of course," said the doctor, "but she has not yet regained consciousness." Rob and Connie sat in the hospital room and watched Cheryl for several more hours. This time it was Connie who paced back and forth across the room while Rob sat right next to Cheryl's sleeping form, holding her hand. Connie left at 8 a.m., promising to return later when she had time to sleep and change clothes. Rob simply nodded as she left. When he was alone with Cheryl, Rob felt worse. He didn't know if he was somehow responsible for her accident. After he walked around the room for a while, he just started talking. "God, I hope you get better. I don't know what I would do if something took you away. I loved you so much, Cheryl. I don't know how we got to where we are now, but I wish I had a button to go back and prevent all this from happening. I'm not just talking about your stupid accident. I'm talking about the whole of last year. I wish we could go back to the time when you still loved me, when we were happy. Maybe I could have been smarter or tried harder to keep you. We would probably already be parents with a child. Rob thought she moved, but then realized it was just a reflexive jerk in response to something she was probably dreaming about. It's so bad, he continued. You're covered in bruises, and we don't know if or when you'll wake up. I also suffered a lot. I don't care anymore. I had a nightmare the other day, Cheryl. Another nightmare. But he was different, not the same as usually when I see you with that guy in our bed. This dream was all about me. I was getting older and lonely, turning into an angry old man. I think that was the reason why I decided to take Connie's advice and try to find a new life. I don't want to become an angry, lonely old weirdo, so I need to find someone I can live my life with and be happy with. Cheryl, I know you didn't love me the way I loved you. You probably never loved me like that, but now everything inside me hurts. I feel empty and I don't want to live my life like this. I want to feel alive again, to feel like someone needs me. And yes, I still want to be a father and a good father. Maybe we can't do this with you, but I want this with someone. The doctors don't know why you haven't woken up yet. They've done a lot of tests, and they say they can't find anything wrong with your brain, but it might show up later. So if you can't handle this, I want you to know that you were loved by the woman. For almost 15 years, almost 16 if you count the time before our wedding, I loved you like no one else. You were the most beautiful thing in the world to me. It's hard to think that I will never be able to talk to you, hug you, or kiss you again. Rob leaned over and kissed Cheryl on the forehead. Her pulse on the monitors quickened. The nurse who monitored her indicators made a note about this in her chart. Two more people noticed this. The first was Connie, who had returned a few minutes ago, heard Rob speak, and saw him kiss her. The second person to notice what was happening was Cheryl herself. She woke up a little after Rob started talking to her. She was in pain, but she didn't want Rob to stop talking to her, and when he kissed her, she couldn't help herself. All she could do was pretend she was still asleep. Her heart rate quickened, and unsurprisingly, she began to become aroused. She wanted him so badly. She never thought her husband would ever speak to her again, much less kiss her, but he did. Connie knocked on the door and quietly entered. "Is she okay?" Connie asked. "She still hasn't woken up," Rob said. "I'm worried about her." "Rob, if you don't care about her, why should you care?" Connie asked. Rob didn't say a word, he just looked at her angrily. "Why don't you go home, change clothes, and eat?" Connie suggested. "I'll stay here, and if she wakes up, I'll call you." Rob nodded and left the room. Connie sat down in the chair next to the bed and took a magazine out of her bag. "I think you would like to wake up earlier," she said to the figure on the bed. "I woke up," Cheryl said, opening her eyes. "I don't know what angers me more, this headache or your interference. Damn, he talked to me for the first time in almost a year, and he even kissed me. And you ruined everything by entering the room." Connie simply shrugged and smiled. When Rob returned to the hospital with a large bouquet of flowers, he spoke with the doctor about Cheryl's condition. The doctor told him that she would make an almost full recovery after several months of therapy. She had slight memory loss, but was conscious and alert. They were still deciding when she could be discharged home. Doctors usually insisted on 48 hours of observation, but the hospital was overcrowded and insurance companies would no longer pay for long hospital stays for observation. If a person had loving relatives or family who could look after him, the new procedure was to send him home and let loved ones look after him. Rob entered the room and saw Connie talking to the nurse. The nurse came over and smiled at him. She gave him a form to fill out. Rob filled it out and looked at Cheryl, who had not yet seen him. As he entered her field of vision, her face lit up. "Hey, honey, I missed you," Cheryl said. Despite the bruises on her face, she seemed very beautiful to Rob. She extended her only good hand to him and raised her lips, as if expecting him to kiss her. "Cheryl, what the hell is wrong with you?" asked Rob. "What's wrong with you, Rob?" she asked. "You always kissed me when we met, and goodbye all these 12 years that we were married." The nurse approached Rob and told him that Cheryl had suffered partial memory loss, so she might have trouble remembering details of the last year or so for the next few days, but he should just roll with it, and eventually most of her memories would be restored when she returns home and finds herself in a familiar environment. Rob returned to Cheryl with a smile on his face. "Have you spoken to the nurse, dear?" Cheryl asked. "Yes, I did, honey," he said sarcastically. "So where's my kiss?" she asked. "Probably on my ass," he chuckled. "I shouldn't have come here in the first place. Right now, I'm supposed to be in Michigan for a car show. But my problem is that I'm stupid and gullible." Connie and Cheryl looked at him. "I was married to you for 14 fucking years, and I truly believed that you loved me too, until I found out how you really felt about me. I did nothing to harm you or take revenge. I just left after you destroyed our marriage and my heart. But apparently, this was not enough for you. Yes, Cheryl, I was your fool. I'm sure you've laughed at me a lot over the years. Ha ha ha. But now I'm not so stupid anymore. Yes, you tugged at the old strings of my heart again and made me come to the hospital scared for you. I think I still have some residual feelings because, like I said, I truly loved you with all my heart. But now you won't deceive me anymore." "What are you talking about?" Cheryl asked through tears. "Of course you love me and I love you with all my heart. That's why we got married. Therefore, we will be together and happy for the rest of our lives." "Cheryl, stop this nonsense," Rob said sharply. "This amnesia won't work on me. Just because I was a fool again and came to make sure you were okay doesn't mean you can pull off this third-rate scam on me. You may have fooled your doctors and nurses, but that trick won't work on me." "What trick?" Cheryl asked. "We got divorced about a year ago," Rob said sharply. "What happened? You ran out of random guys for sex, and you decided to make fun of me again. Maybe I should go home and catch you having sex with your lover again. Honestly, I still have questions about that first time. How was this supposed to work? After he made you a baby, were you going to leave me for him? Or were you going to make me think that puppy in your belly was mine while you continued to have sex with him every chance you got?" "Rob, you don't understand anything. Please let me tell you what really happened," Cheryl sobbed. "Are you going to tell me the truth?" asked Rob. He noticed that the doctor and nurses were nearby and listening. "Yes," Cheryl said. "About all 3 guys?" asked Rob. "Yes," Cheryl said. "And about all the guys after our divorce?" he asked. "It will be easy because there hasn't been anyone since then, not even a date," Cheryl said. "See," Rob said, turning to the doctor and nurses. "This bitch can't be trusted. She is the greatest liar in the world. She doesn't have any memory loss." The doctor and nurses were surprised. "Rob, I made a very big mistake. I wanted to experience something that turned out to not be worth what it cost me," Cheryl said sharply. "But I never lied to you." Rob turned back to Cheryl. "I promised to remain faithful only to him. Disown everyone else," Rob spat. "I remember you saying yes after that. Isn't that considered a lie?" Rob noticed that he was still holding the flowers. He threw them across the room and left without another word. Before Rob got home, he started receiving calls. "What happened to let's just wait for her to come to her senses?" Connie asked. "I get the impression that coaxing your wife off a cliff has become part of my job description." "Listen, Connie, what did you expect?" asked Rob. As soon as she spoke, my BLDL worked. "Yours what?" Connie asked. "My built-in lie detector," Rob said. "It was the first time I spoke to her in a year, and instead of being grateful that I came to her in the first place, she started making fun of me again. This woman doesn't have an honest bone in her. But you know, I suppose this is partly my fault. She'd been fooling me for so long that she naturally thought she could pull the trick again." "Maybe she's right, Rob," Connie said. "What?" said Rob. "I think you're a fool too," Connie said. "For 2 reasons, not one at a time." "I saw through her trick," Rob said. "She didn't deceive me." "The first reason," Connie said. You see a woman who doesn't care about you and who is trying to play some kind of game with you, although in reality, this is not the case at all. You've never allowed her or anyone else to explain your feelings, and you probably never will. What I saw was a woman who loves you so much and desperately that she would do anything, even the stupidest things, to get you back. Yes, of course, said Rob. She only wants me back because her lovers won't want her until she gets better. She doesn't have lovers, Rob. If there are any, they must be pretty perverted, sitting around night after night listening to her cry for me. You were madly, passionately in love with each other for 14 years. She behaved stupidly for 2 weeks, and without any thought or even giving her an explanation, you threw it all away. It makes me wonder if you were the one who wanted to leave. Rob glared at Connie again. The second reason you're a fool, she continued, is that you don't even tell yourself the truth. What great truth am I hiding, Connie? Asked Rob. The fact is, no matter what she did, you never stopped loving Cheryl. The fact is, you love that stupid woman as much as she loves you, Connie said. Now you're the fool here, Rob said. I can't stand her. She makes me sick. Then why aren't you in Michigan chasing your dreams? Connie asked. And Rob, before you answer and lie to yourself again, I was in her hospital room. I heard everything you said to her and saw you kiss her. What do you want from me? Asked Rob. Just keep your promise, Connie said. After she gets better, you two can work it out or not. But we both obviously want her to get better, so let's just do it. You can start by coming back here. Rob returned to the hospital room after a while. Connie took his hand and led him to Cheryl's bed. Cheryl tried to sit up as he approached. She smiled and tried to run her good hand through her hair. Cheryl, stop it, Connie said sharply. We need to make a deal or you'll end up in a nursing home. We're all calling a truce until you get better. To make this time less unpleasant for everyone, we need to follow certain rules. From now until the end of the truce, we are all just 3 friends. We will not talk about your past marriage or anything related to it. Is this clear? Connie asked. Yes, said Rob. Crystal, Cheryl replied. Rob, you will faithfully help Cheryl until she gets better, okay? Connie asked. Rob looked at her sharply. That's a pretty poor choice of words, considering I'm not the one who was unfaithful. Connie glared at him. I agree, Rob said. Cheryl, you will not provoke Rob. No schemes, no plans, no memories, okay? I agree, Cheryl said, smiling. Rob, do you want to move her into your home, or will you move into your old house? Connie asked. Rob looked like he had been shot. Why can't she stay with you? He asked. Because 3 of us, or even 2, won't fit in my apartment. It's too small, Connie said. I know this will be the hardest for you, Rob, Connie said. If you go back to your place, she will know where you live. On the other hand, there are too many bad memories for you in the other house. We'll use her house, Rob said. This is our house, Cheryl responded sharply, starting to cry. This house you bought for me is still your house. Why is she crying? Asked Rob. Cheryl didn't wait for Connie to pass on the question. She noticed that Rob wasn't talking to her. Because I love you so much, Rob, and you don't even trust me enough to let me know where you live. Connie knows where you live, and you've only known her for a few months. You can't wait for me to get better so you can move on with your life. I'm like broccoli to you. The doctor tells you to eat it for a few weeks to get rid of the rash. So you eat it for these weeks, and then you throw every single piece out of the house and never eat it again. You would rather go back to where I betrayed you than let me see your new home. While you're there, every time you pass by that room, you'll remember what happened there, and you'll hate me even more. By the time this is all over, I won't have a chance to get you back. You're not even talking to me now. You ask Connie everything, even when I'm sitting right here. Rob began. You, think I'm worthless, Cheryl said. I'm sitting here dying just for you to touch me like I've been doing for a year, and you don't even look at me. What a truce. You know what's funny, Rob? In your little speech, you said you were a fool. Well, me too. Because I almost died in that accident yesterday, but I would do it again just so you could sit here and call me an easy girl and tell me how much you hate me. No, I changed my mind, Rob. You're a fool too because you can't understand how much I really love you." After that, no one spoke for a long time. More than 3 days passed before Cheryl was sent home. A hospital bed was set up in Cheryl's living room. Rob slept in the guest room. When Connie stayed overnight, she slept in Rob and Cheryl's old room. Cheryl hasn't returned to that room since Rob left. It was too painful for her. Cheryl usually slept in the same room where Rob now slept. The first night he stayed there, he couldn't sleep because of her smell on the sheets. It almost drove him crazy. Rob or Connie had to stay with Cheryl almost constantly. She needed help with almost everything, including bowel movements and hygiene. The first time Rob had to help Cheryl pee, he nearly died from embarrassment. "You can watch if you want, Rob," Cheryl grinned. "That was before I knew I wasn't the only one into you," Rob responded sharply. "Rob, you were the first and only," Cheryl said. "Oh, I feel honored," Rob chuckled. "Out of the millions of boyfriends you've had, I've been lucky enough to be with you more than once. It's a pity that I wasn't the last." "Oh, but you'll be the last, Rob. I can guarantee it. Nobody touched me for over a year. And once you and I make love again, no one else will ever even see it." "Well, maybe just the doctor who will deliver our children," Cheryl said. Rob just rolled his eyes. "Let's go back to the truce," he said when she had finished with the vessel. After this conversation, more than 2 days passed before Rob and Cheryl were able to speak to each other again. But they settled into a rhythm, watching TV together or talking every night after dinner, except for the nights Connie stayed with Cheryl to give Rob a break. As long as they didn't talk about the past or the possibility of them getting back together, they got along great. "Why did you buy this car?" Cheryl asked one day. "I don't know," Rob said. "I've always wanted one, and this seemed right." "Why didn't you buy it while we were together?" she asked. "We could afford it." "When we were together, as you call it," Rob said, "it was more important to me that we save money for our future, for our children, and for things that make you happy," Rob said. "What do you mean, together, as I call it?" Cheryl asked. "Rob, I'm not trying to start a fight with you. I don't want to fight with you. But it's very important to me that you understand some things." "Remember the rules of the truce," Rob said. "Okay, what's her name?" Cheryl asked. "Whose name?" asked Rob. "That car you wash every damn night. You know, Rob, both my legs are broken, so I can't go anywhere. Until the area around the studs hardens, I can't even sit in a wheelchair. So some nights, instead of watching TV or reading, I ask Connie to open the windows and I watch you. This is my favorite activity. You run your hands over every inch of this car with such love, just as you used to do with me. You clean it and polish it the way you massaged me before. When you work on this car, you smile. This is the only time you smile. I would give my life for you to smile at me like that. And then, when it's all finished and the car is washed and polished, you lean over and kiss the damn car, and my heart breaks because all the love that should be mine, you give to the car. So tell me, Rob, what the name of this damn car is." By the end of the second week, the nurse began to gradually wean Cheryl off the pain medication drip. She was also given sleeping pills to help her sleep. The idea was that she would take painkillers during the day and sleeping pills at night. Cheryl tried her best to respect the truce, but often broke it. Every evening, no matter who she had to spend the night with, Rob or Connie, she always told Rob good night and that she loved him. Rob always chuckled and said, "Truce." Cheryl didn't know how long it went on, but one night she got really angry with Rob. They were watching a TV show and Rob was crazy about the star of the show. Cheryl told him she was tired and wanted to sleep. Rob turned off the TV and gave her sleeping pills. It usually took effect on her very quickly, and she usually fell asleep within 20 minutes of taking it. But there was something different that night. Perhaps it was her anger. She couldn't sleep for a long time. Her thoughts were already on the verge of sleep when she noticed Rob looking around. She wondered what he was doing. Maybe he was looking for Connie. Maybe they have sex while she sleeps. Rob looked around to make sure Connie wasn't around, and then surprised her even more. He walked over to Cheryl's bed and kissed her tenderly on the cheek. "Good night, darling, I love you too," he said, and then went to bed alone. Cheryl couldn't believe this happened. How long did he do this? The next morning, Connie asked Cheryl why she was so angry. "He was crazy about some TV star right in front of me," Cheryl snapped. She decided not to tell Connie about the rest of her evening. "You're stupid," Connie said. "You should have watched this show with him. He only likes this woman because she looks like you." Cheryl suddenly realized that Connie was right. She also realized that she had very little time left before the cast was removed and she would lose Rob. They had already spent almost 4 of their 6 to 8 weeks arguing. With her jealousy of everything he touched, she only pushed Rob further away from her. When Rob returned home from work to relieve Connie, he found Cheryl looking through one of their old photo albums. As he approached her to pour her a drink, he watched in amazement as she leafed through old photographs. Cheryl thought it might help close the distance between them by reminding him of how they were together in the beginning, when it was just the two of them. "Do you remember this?" she asked quietly. She showed Rob a photo taken before the ship left port, taking them on their honeymoon. "God, how happy we were then," she said, "and they loved each other so much." Rob chuckled sarcastically. "One of us for sure," he spat. Cheryl thought, at least he didn't leave and get angry. "I'm making progress." "Do you remember what happened that night?" she said dreamily. That night was special for Cheryl and Rob. For Cheryl, she still remained that way. She didn't realize that things looked different for Rob. Now he doubted that she had ever cared about him. "That was the night you made me a woman," she said dreamily. "Your woman." Cheryl thought about the times they remembered that night during their marriage, and Rob would just throw her on the floor and make love to her. Rob chuckled again, his face filled with anger. Cheryl couldn't understand what made him so angry. "Somehow with you, it always comes down to sex, doesn't it?" he said sharply. "You were a woman long before we met, and very special. I thought you were my woman when you said you loved me, so sex has nothing to do with it. That night, I just started warming you up for the legion of men you'll eventually fuck when you get tired of me." "Rob, how many girlfriends did you have before we met?" asked Cheryl. "To be honest, I know at least 5 or 6, so you're way ahead of me when it comes to cheating." "The difference is that when I met you, I stopped," Rob said. "I knew what it was and I loved it, but I stopped for you. Since we met, there has been no one but you. I kept the vow we made, that's the difference. I've waited my whole life to meet you, Rob. You were my first. I love you more than you will ever understand. I loved making love to you. It was magical and special, and no one or nothing will ever come close to it. But I didn't know how special it was because I didn't have anything to compare it to. I just felt like all these stupid women in my office were doing all these incredible things that I had never experienced. Rob, it's partly your fault because you spoiled me. You made me feel like the most special woman in the world, and I just wanted to know what they were talking about." The first guy was young and full of energy, but it was terrible because he didn't know what to do with it and turned out to be a real bastard. He made me feel cheap and stupid. They told me to try with an older, more experienced man who would be gentle and caring. After that, you stopped making love to me. You told Connie that I let him take me. You were absolutely right. I just lay there and let him do it to get it over with and agreed with what he was saying. He said something about how I wanted him to make me a baby. Rob, I swear on my life that at that moment I was thinking about what I would make you for dinner. That's why I said something like, 'Come on,' or 'Yes, I want it.' I already decided then never to do this again. I never had the opportunity to experiment as a teenager like everyone else did, Rob. I didn't go into the back seat of the car like other teenagers did. So I went crazy for a couple of weeks, and you can't forgive me. 14 years of happiness must outweigh 2 weeks of stupidity, Rob." "Cheryl, if you had stopped after the first guy, I would have been angry, but we could have worked through it," Rob said. "You could have explained to me what you just told me, and we could have found a way out. But after that, it was already too late. You put your friends from work above us and your need for other men too. So now you can experiment and compare as much as you want. You no longer have anyone to betray. I don't care how many guys you try in the car, as long as it's not my car, he shrugged. But I don't understand why you didn't just come to me and say, Rob, everything has been great, but there are things I want to try that I can't do by staying with you. It would be fair and correct. I would give you a divorce, and as soon as I left or you moved, you could start sleeping with anyone. Why play me like a fool? All it did was make me hate you. Because you're an idiot, Rob, Cheryl replied sharply. You weren't a fool, and I wanted to stay with you. I loved you then as much as I love you now. I will love you even more in a year. I just made a mistake. Can't you understand it, Rob? I'm not perfect. I made the wrong decision. I was stupid. You and I were made for each other, but I ruined everything. I regret it every day. The day you left me, I wanted to die. The only day I can say was the worst was the day I received the divorce papers, or the day the judge approved the divorce. I have nightmares about it every day. The next day, Rob took Cheryl to the hospital to have the cast removed from her arm. He drove her back home and helped her get into bed. When he returned home from work, an unfamiliar man was in the dining room. Connie and Cheryl were there too. Cheryl looked at Rob and smiled. They haven't spoken since the day they fought over the lie detector test. Sit down, Rob, Cheryl said. At first, Rob thought the man was a doctor, but then he realized that something else was going on. The man asked Cheryl question after question, and she answered them. The man then turned to Rob and handed him the printout. Here are your wife's test results, the man said. Ex-wife, Rob corrected him. Not according to the test results, the man said. I asked her if she was your wife. She replied, according to the law, we are divorced, but I was against it, and in my heart, I still consider myself his wife. She didn't lie. I asked her if she had cheated on you. She confessed to 3 incidents. I asked if there was anyone else there. She said, no, and that's true. I asked her if she had fun these 3 times. She said, no, and that's also true. I asked her if she wanted the last guy to get pregnant with her. She said, hell no, and that's true. I asked her if she wanted to get pregnant. She said, yes, very much, but she wanted it to be you. I asked her if she loved anyone else besides you. She said, no, and this is true. I asked her if she loved you. She said, yes, and that's been the case from the moment she met you, and it's true. What did I tell you? Cheryl said. The man handed Rob a cuff similar to the one used to measure blood pressure. Rob backed down. Now it's your turn, sir, the man said. I have a list of questions for you too. Rob looked at the questions. There were only 5 questions on the list. I don't have to do this, he said, and headed for the door. Question number 1, Cheryl shouted. Did you like what Cheryl was doing? You will answer yes, and it will be true. Question number 2, do you hate Cheryl? You'll say yes again, but it's going to be a lie, Rob. Question number 3, do you want things to return to normal? You want it as much as I do, she shouted. Rob slammed the door shut. Question number 4, do you want me back? You'll say no, and you'll lie again. And question number 5, Rob, do you still love me? You will say no and lie again, Cheryl shouted. You're talking nonsense, Cheryl, Rob shouted as he returned to the room. Rob, you too, she replied sharply. You're just stubborn. If you hate me so much, then why do you tell me that you love me and kiss me goodnight every night when you think I'm sleeping? Rob, you even kissed me in the hospital. Why is it so hard for you to be honest? The only thing that separates us now is your damn ego. And the fact that you have already betrayed what we had, Rob said. I won't let you hurt me again. Never, regardless of how I feel. They sat for a long time, glaring at each other, and then Rob walked up the stairs to his room. You pushed him too hard, Cheryl, Connie said. I know, Cheryl said, crying. But he pisses me off so much. Sometimes when I look at him, I want so badly to just touch him, but I can't. When we watch TV together in the evenings, it drives me crazy that I can't kiss him or hug him. I just feel pain all the time. I'm desperate. I thought that maybe when he saw the test results, he would at least understand that I was telling him the truth. I'm not sure he even noticed, Connie said. But I'm sure when you tried to get him to take the test too, it was a bad idea. Cheryl, I've told you from the beginning that we need to proceed slowly and carefully. We see it differently than men. For most men, cheating on their woman is a blow to their ego and masculinity. What you call curiosity or experimentation will be perceived by most men as not being important enough to you. If he takes you back for some reason, he will have to face the fact that many people will consider him a weakling. So no matter how much he loves you, and let's face it, we know he does, all you just did was push him even further away from you. Cheryl nodded. I know, Connie, but I'm desperate. In 2 weeks, the plaster cast will be removed from my legs. My legs will be weak, but I will be able to move. There would be no reason for him to stay here. I have 14 days to get my husband back. Well, did you like it when he came over every night and kissed you goodnight? Connie asked. Of course I liked it, Cheryl replied. This is the best part of my day. Well, you just lost it. Now he'll never do it again after you told him that, Connie said. Just as Connie predicted, everything changed that night. Rob still took care of Cheryl like he promised, but this was different. First, since she could now use her arm, he no longer helped her in the bathroom. When he brought her dinner, even though she no longer had to feed him, he no longer sat with her and talked or watched TV. Cheryl missed most of all those tender goodnight kisses and quiet words of love that Rob whispered, thinking that she was sleeping. No matter what she said or did, Rob never spoke to her again, except to ask if she needed help or what she wanted for dinner. He simply refused to engage in any conversation with her. Exactly 2 weeks after their argument over the lie detector test, Cheryl had the cast removed from her legs. Her legs were still weak, and she had several weeks of physical therapy ahead of her. Doctors also told her she would likely be left with a slight limp in her step due to one leg being slightly longer than the other after surgery to repair a damaged ankle. None of this mattered. Cheryl found it difficult to breathe and could not stop crying. She knew Rob would probably leave as soon as he took her home, and there was nothing she could do about it. When they drove home from the hospital, he still didn't say a word to her. He carried her very gently from the car, even though the doctors told her to start walking short distances and getting up to do things on her own. He went upstairs, and when he came back, he had his suitcases. He has already packed his things. Cheryl's eyes filled with tears. He walked to the door and placed the suitcases on the floor. When she raised her head, he was standing over her. You were right, he began. I didn't want to take your stupid test because I still love you more than I can bear. I hate what you did to us, but I don't think I could ever love anyone the way I love you. Then why should you leave? She asked quietly. Because after what happened between us, I can never trust you again, Cheryl. You were everything in my life. You hurt me too much for us to fix this. We need to move on, he said. No, she said sharply. There is no longer a way forward for me. The only thing I understood in this whole story is that you are the only one for me. I don't care how long I have to wait. I'll be waiting. If we get back together when we're 80, I'll still be here and I'll still be yours. Maybe you can move on and find yourself some hot young chick or a more experienced older woman. I won't like this, Rob. This hurts me greatly, but I am sure that in the end you will return to me. It's just a matter of time. I think you'll go to bars, meet a few girls, and have sex with them, and then realize we wasted a lot of damn time. Rob leaned down and kissed her very gently, this time on the lips, and then he left. For over 3 months, neither Cheryl nor Connie heard from Rob. Cheryl and Connie remained friends, but there was a hint of sadness in their relationship. They never talked about Rob. Connie returned to bars and casual sex. She tried to interest Cheryl in dating, or at least going out, but to no avail. Remember what happened the last time you pulled me out? Cheryl said. And then one day it happened. They both received it on the same day, Rob's wedding invitation. Cheryl's heart was broken. She sincerely expected him to return to her. She thought he would probably have a few flings and sex and then come home to her. He even confessed to her that he loved her. She didn't expect him to fall in love with someone else. "Will you go?" Connie asked hesitantly. "Yes," Cheryl replied. "Why?" Connie asked. "Why put yourself through such pain?" "Because I love him so much," Cheryl said. "I want him to be happy more than anything in the world. I really want him to be with me again. But if that's not possible, I still want him to be happy, so I'll take any opportunity to see him." 2 weeks later, Connie and Cheryl got out of Connie's car at a church they had never been to. They were a little late, but they noticed that a lot of people were still standing outside, so they weren't in a hurry. Cheryl noticed that there were many Mustangs parked near the church. "Here they are," said a voice in the crowd. "Looks like he's winning again." Cheryl craned her neck to see what was happening. She saw a black Mustang, which was clearly speeding, and another car was slightly behind it. The two cars entered the final turn, and the driver of the black Mustang slammed on the brakes. The car spun 180 degrees, leaving tire tracks in the parking lot, and stopped at the curb a split second before the other car, the white Mustang. The cars were parked nose to nose, and the crowd outside the church was cheering and cheering. Rob stepped out of the black Mustang. As he closed the door, he saw a tall, slender, but curvy woman who seemed vaguely familiar to Cheryl get out of a white car, and she was angry. "Damn it, Rob, you cheated," the woman blurted out. "Nothing like that," he shouted back. "I'm just faster." "No," the woman said, offended. While she was speaking, she took off her flat shoes. Someone from the crowd handed her a pair of white high-heeled shoes. The woman was wearing a very strange dress. The bodice was white, made of brocade with small pearls and rhinestones sewn onto it. However, it all ended with very short boxer shorts. She was wearing white thigh-high stockings, and the heels she had just put on made her incredible legs look even longer. Connie winced, thinking that this woman's legs were even better than her own before the accident. "I won fair and square, now pass on the winnings," Rob said. His eyes burned with fire. "You won't get anything," the woman snapped. Something in her face haunted Cheryl's memory. Someone in the crowd handed the woman a long silk skirt, which she snapped up, completing her very elegant wedding attire. Someone also gave Rob a tuxedo jacket. The woman looked at Rob angrily, but then, when he put on his jacket, her face melted into a smile that conveyed her feelings for Rob to everyone present. "Okay, you won, even though you cheated," the woman said. "Here's your prize." She stepped into Rob's arms, and they kissed for a long time. "I love you, Rob," the woman said, and Cheryl's heart broke. "Now let's get married." "Me too, Molly," Rob repeated. Then they entered the church. Cheryl fell to her knees, ruining the dress she had spent a week's salary on. She couldn't go into that church and watch Rob marry Molly. She knew that Rob was exactly what Molly was looking for. Molly was about 13 years younger than Cheryl and would make a great wife for Rob. They both wanted the same thing. Molly has had her fair share of modeling days, and she won't succumb to temptation or deception like Cheryl did. She wished Rob happiness in her mind, and then went home to cry alone. She made her choice when she decided to change, and even though this bed was lonely, she would have to lie in it for the rest of her life. Cheryl sank into an even deeper depression. She was very sad for about a month and hardly left the house. Over time, she got a little better. She joined several volunteer groups to occupy her time and took on more responsibilities at work. She even went on a few dates, but they were complete failures. In one case, she even looked at a man's face while they were ordering food at a restaurant and began shaking her head. "I need to leave," she told him. She realized that there was simply no point in her being there because she would only love one man. Nothing could take away the pain in her heart, but there were times when she could forget about it for a few minutes. One such moment was the time she spent helping at an orphanage. Cheryl always looked at children and wondered what her and Rob's children would look like. Almost 8 months after almost attending Rob's wedding, Cheryl sat at her desk. A tall woman with long light brown hair approached her desk. Cheryl looked up and saw Molly looking at her angrily. Before Cheryl could say anything, Molly swung her hand and hit her hard in the face. Cheryl's head snapped back and she fell out of her chair. Connie and several other women from the office ran over to see what was happening. "If you try something like that again, I'll hit you much harder next time," Molly said calmly. Cheryl was confused. "Why did you hit me, Molly?" Cheryl asked. "You should be happy, not angry. You won the race." "Yeah, but it's not that fun to drive someone else's car," Molly snapped. "He is yours and will always be yours. Let's go, we have a lot to do and not enough damn time." Cheryl started to get up, but Connie stepped between her and Molly. "She's not going anywhere with you," Connie said sharply. "Listen, fat girl," Molly said. "This doesn't concern you. She can come with me and regain her happiness, or she can stay here with you and be depressed and withdrawn for the rest of her life. In a way, I hope she doesn't go." Molly then headed towards the exit. Before she reached the door, Cheryl was already on her heels. Rob's black Mustang pulled up outside his house next to his wife's white Mustang. He got out of the car and inserted the key into the lock before noticing a note taped to the door. He read the note and smiled. "Rob, imagine that the world has experienced an apocalyptic event. Technology is no longer there to help us. Most of humanity was destroyed. You wander blindly through the wasteland, sleeping in burnt-out buildings or wherever you have to, finding shelter and a roof over your head. On this particular evening, you find the bedroom upstairs. You get into bed and undress, only to find that someone is already there. It's a woman, but for some reason she can't speak. You can't talk either. She is also naked. What happens next is up to you. Remember, you both can't talk. Therefore, you must express your feelings for her in a different way, and don't turn on the light." Rob laughed. Molly was always coming up with something new to keep their personal lives fresh. This was another of her role-playing fantasies. Well, he could do it. He walked up the stairs and entered their bedroom. The curtains were closed and the room was completely dark. He went to the bed and found that she was not there. "Molly," he said. "Damn it, Rob, no talking, remember," he heard her say. "I rearranged the furniture, so come find me. Now shut up, or you won't get anything." Rob looked around the room carefully. He tried to feel the space around him. He came across a long, relatively narrow pillar. It looked like one of the legs of their massive sleigh bed. He moved his hand forward and found the mattress. He took off his jacket and pants. While he was doing this, he heard someone exhale heavily. His shirt and boxers joined his pants on the floor, and he climbed onto the bed. But something was strange. Molly's breasts didn't seem the same as usual. Maybe it was because she was lying down and her chest was a little flattened. Although the sex was brief, it was incredibly intense, and Rob was exhausted. Molly leaned back, kissed him deeply, and then stood up from the bed. She went to the bathroom. Molly never liked to cuddle after sex until she was cleaned up a bit, so Rob wasn't surprised. He lay in the darkness for a few more seconds until he heard Molly's voice put an end to the fantasy. "How do you like it, Rob?" she asked. "It was the best," Rob said. "The best of me or the best of the last few years?" Molly asked. "Neither," Rob said. "It was the best sex of my life. The first time was wild and rough. The second time was gentler and more romantic. It was the best of both worlds, and the way you moved, darling, was just perfect." Molly turned on the light. Rob was having a hard time focusing, but it looked like Molly was sitting on her suitcases, fully dressed. "How did you get dressed so quickly?" asked Rob. "Honey, I was dressed the whole time," Molly replied. "What's going on here?" asked Rob. "Rob, I love you," Molly said. "Is it true? Remember the offer I received a few weeks ago to return to modeling?" "Yes," said Rob. "I told you I would go to New York with you if that's what you really want." "I know you would go, Rob. You are a wonderful person. I really love you. We would have a great life together and you would have a good time," Molly said. "But I don't want you to just feel good. I want you to be happy, but with me you could never be happy." What do you mean? Asked Rob. Rob, don't you even notice that sometimes during sex you call me Cheryl? I'm sorry, Rob said. It's probably just a habit. We have been together for a long time. I thought so too for a while, Molly said. But lately you've been crying in your sleep and saying I love you, Cheryl, while you sleep. That's why I decided to give you a sex test today. Well, I passed it, didn't I? Asked Rob. Today was wonderful. I told you it was the best sex I've ever had with anyone. No, Rob, Molly said. You failed it. Today was the best sex of your life because it was with the person you were meant to be with. Rob looked at her like she was crazy. Molly shrugged her shoulders and walked over to the bed. She hugged Rob and kissed him. I left the divorce papers on the kitchen table. We've been together for less than a year, so there's nothing to share. You two should definitely name that damn kid after me. She pulled away from him and looked at her watch. Damn, she said. I need to catch a plane. And Rob, please don't ruin this. Don't make my sacrifice meaningless. Just follow your heart. It will be the right decision. As Molly left the room, she yelled at Rob, and don't you dare drive my damn Mustang. Send it to me. Then he heard the front door slam shut. The bathroom door opened and Cheryl came out. Please don't be mad, Rob, she said. I wasn't trying to trick you or anything. When she offered me this, I couldn't refuse. I missed you so much. Rob shook his head as Cheryl continued talking. I really wanted it to be romantic and beautiful, but I was too excited, she said. I wanted you so much. It's been so long. Rob, I'll let you decide what happens next. I'm so sorry. I just love you so much. Rob took Cheryl's hand and pulled her towards the door. Rob, please don't make me leave. She began. Rob put a finger to her lips to silence her and turned off the light, sending the room back into pitch darkness. She felt him pull her towards the bed and lift her onto it. Suddenly, he stopped. Sorry, he said. I should have asked first. Is this what you want? What do you mean by it, Rob? She asked. Well, just being fuck buddies, he said. You know, from time to time, we will call each other and meet. If that's what you want, Rob, she said, I'm just happy to be with you in any way I can. It's not exactly what I need, he said. Maybe it should just be a one-time meeting. What do you need, Rob? She asked, almost crying. I can be what you need, I promise. I don't know, he said. This may be hard for you. Give me a chance, Rob. I'll do anything, she said. Anything. Okay, then you'll have to marry me again, he said. First thing in the morning, Rob, she said. But today we have a lot of lost time that we need to make up for. I love you, Cheryl, he said. I want us to forget about the past and move forward. But if you ever give me reason to even think that you might cheat on me again, I will leave and we will never exist again. Rob, I swear it will never happen again. This time I know what I have and I won't risk it for anything. 3 weeks later, at their second wedding, Connie, Cheryl's maid of honor, met her future husband. Rob and Cheryl managed to save their relationship this time and, as they both wanted, grew old together. At the 50th wedding anniversary celebration, when a friend asked Rob about the secret that had kept them together and happy for so long, Rob replied, Molly, faith, patience, and love. Hey, said the friend, aren't these your children's names? Yes, Cheryl said. The first one we named after an old friend, Molly, without whom we would never have gotten back together after the stupid thing I did years ago. We named our next daughter Vera, Rob said, because without Cheryl's belief that we were meant for each other, we wouldn't exist. I really lost hope for us, no matter how much I loved her. We named our next daughter Patience because Cheryl had to be very patient with me. It took me a long time to fully trust her again, and there were many times when I just got really mad at her out of the blue, Rob continued. And we named our last daughter Love, Cheryl said, because in the end, it was our love for each other that was what really mattered and kept us going.